Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 17 of What If Jackie Chan was in W.I.T.C.H. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. A chantastic prison break. Cavagore Prison, arguably the most secure prison in all of Meridian, even more so than the dungeon in Phobos' own castle. It was almost completely underground, save for the entrance at the top. It held over 100 prisoners in total, and most who entered this prison never returned, and it would seem that Cavagore was about to get a new resident. This new prisoner was a large, well-built man. His hands were tied in front of him, with rope tied around his waist as 4 guards held and escorted him. However, he was not about to let himself be thrown into a cell and rot away. Using his own strength, he pulled on the rope behind him to slam the rear 2 guards into each other and knock them down before leaping backwards to get some distance and barrel his way through the last 2 guards and make a run for it. He ran out the door of one of the upper floors before making his way up the stairs, hoping to get to the exit at the very top. Unfortunately, it would seem that the guards previously holding him were in pursuit. Once he made it to the upper floor, which appeared to be the armory, he spotted 2 guards at the doorway. He quickly leapt up to deal a kick to one before he brought his tied hands down onto the second. He grabbed the sword from one of them and threw it at the wall with the handle sticking out before using it to cut his own bindings. By the time the other guards caught up in the armory, the prisoner was already halfway up the final staircase that would lead to the top floor, and hopefully his escape. However, once he made it to the top, he did indeed find the only way out of Cavagore, a hole in the ceiling 30 meters above him, with no means to climb out. The prisoner fell on his knees in despair as the guards caught up to subdue him. It would seem escape from this prison was all but impossible. Phobos, Castle. Elion's power continues to grow at an exceptional pace, my prince. Daolan Wang reported to Phobos, with Cedric and Tarakudo present as well. And her mastery over her own power grows as well. With the time of the coronation approaching, we need to be extra careful around Elion. Phobos told his cohorts. Chan and the Guardians will no doubt continue to interfere. With an Oni mask under our control, we can better guard the palace. Cedric commented. But only 2 remain. Phobos reminded. And given your track record, it seems unlikely the mask will fall into our possession and remain so. This really seemed to irritate Cedric, who did his best to hide it. Oh, don't you worry about that, Phobos. Tarakudo told him. I promise, when all is said and done, you'll be far from disappointed. The quartet heard the door open, causing them to halt their conversation as the Oni King vanished from sight so that the approaching Elion could not see him as she entered, along with the Dark Kai enforcers. Hey guys, I was going to head out and do some sketching. Wanna come? She asked. With the coronation approaching, I have a lot to attend to, Elion. Phobos said. And with the frequent insurrection of the rebellion, I would not recommend venturing outside the castle grounds. Daolan Wang advised. My apologies, your majesty. Don't worry about it, boss man. Finn brushed off. Yeah, we got the kids back. Chow said. Ain't no one gonna hurt a hair on this cute kid's head. Ratso added as he ruffled Elion's hair, causing her to giggle slightly. Ah, you guys are sweet. She said to the enforcers before turning to her brother. Look, this is you Phobos. She showed him a well-drawn sketch of him in her sketchbook. Ooh, you're quite talented. Phobos complimented. He truly did admire her artwork. He'd even say she'd be able to paint masterpieces when she'd entered adulthood. He browsed through her other sketches but came to a stop once he saw the sketches of her adoptive parents from Earth, both in their human form and their real ones as natives of Meridian. Judging by the expression on his face, Elion realized her brother saw the sketches of her adoptive mother and father. I wanna see them. Elion, I've told you, your Earth parents are fine. Phobos said as he put a hand on her shoulder, while the Dark Kai enforcers eyed him with suspicion. They were a part of my life for 12 years. Elion said sincerely. I've known them since I was a baby. They raised me. I don't like that they lied to me about my true identity, but I still love them. Ah, that's cute. Ratso practically gushed. Elion smiled appreciatingly toward him before turning to Cedric. I know you were pretty upset with them, Cedric. Because I had believed they were part of the rebellion. He replied. However, after questioning them, we believe that may not truly be the case. What do you mean? Elion asked. After the death of our birth parents, chaos ensued throughout Meridian. Phobos began to explain. We believe that in the confusion, you were carried across the veil to Earth, where Alborn and Myriadel, the true names of your adoptive parents, took you and raised you as their own. From our questioning of them, we believed they were told the same lie the rest of Meridian was exposed to about your brother assassinating your parents. Daolong Wang spoke to Elion as well. They did indeed lie about your heritage, but they truly sought to protect you. If you can find it in your heart to forgive them, then so can we. Once I learned of their innocence, I made the arrangements for them to live in a cottage in the mountains. Phobos continued. Though I've had it guarded and it is some distance away, if only to keep them safe should the rebels attempt to get to them. But for you, my dear sister, he kneeled down closer toward her. I'll have them escorted here. Really? Elion said excitedly before hugging her brother. That's so great. Thank you. However, while Elion herself seemed excited, the enforcers looked at the prince with caution as they recognized the sinister glint in his eyes. Earth, Heatherfield. At the moment, the girls were spending their downtime in a bowling alley, with Jade sending her ball down the lane to score yet another strike. Boom, baby. Jade pumped her fist. Top that, Blondie. She challenged Cornelia, who was at the lane next to her. Oh, you are so on. Cornelia smirked as she sent her ball down her lane. Come on, baby. Make me proud. Come on, come on. She prayed, right as the ball hit and scored a strike herself. Strike. She laughed as she gave a teasing smirk to Jade. It's all in the shoes, little Jade. Jade, in response, rolled her eyes. Only you would turn a fun game into something lame with fashion. Hey, fashion is not lame. Cornelia pointed out. That is blasphemy, right there. Okay, let's break it up, it's all just a game. Terani eased as she and Alchemy tried to stop what they thought was a fight. Relax, I was only busting her chops. Jade assured. But I still think fashion is lame. Let's agree to disagree. Cornelia replied. Guys. Irma stated as she and Will were both sitting down in the chairs behind them. Why are we bowling when we know what the bad guys are planning to do to Elion? And don't we still have 2 more Oni masks out there? Well, the attack date's set. Will assured her teammate. We've got a little more than 2 months before the big battle, that's plenty of time to find the other masks. Plus, Jackie and the others told us to take a break. Alchemy added. And after all the fighting we've been doing, I'd say we earned it. Yeah, just pretend the bowling pins are Tarakudo. Jade also said to Irma. It was Hei-Lin's turn to bowl as she sent her ball down the lane, only for it to veer into the right gutter. Yes. Wahoo. Gutter ball. Wahoo. Hei-Lin cheered, even though her ball completely missed the pins. You do realize the object is to hit them, right? Terani reminded. Anyone can hit the pins. There's like 10 of them. Hei-Lin replied. How many of them can miss them, huh? Jade chuckled. And they say I'm a rebel. However, as she reached into the pin spotter to get her ball back but ended up grabbing something a little squishier and slimier. What the, Blanc? She quickly tried to shove him back inside so that no bystanders saw him. What are you doing here? She questioned in a harsh whisper. Caleb tell Blanc to find girls. Found Elion parents. Blanc informed. That got everyone's attention. What? Cornelia exclaimed. Elion's adoptive parents. Jackie exclaimed as Caleb informed him, as well as Uncle, Toru, and Yan Lin in the Chan family show. Alborn and Myriadel. Caleb confirmed. They're alive and being held in Cavigor prison. It's the most secure and heavily guarded prison in all of Meridian, even more so than Phobos' own dungeon. How did you find out about this? Toru asked. I thought you no longer had spies in Phobos' army. There aren't any. Caleb confirmed. But Aldarn got a tip from a maid named Trill who works in the castle and overheard what Phobos said. He passed the tip to me, and I now to you. What do you know of Cavigor, Caleb? Yan Lin asked. Very little. Caleb answered. Vathek wasn't in that high of a position when he spied for Phobos, but he did get a little information. Cavigor is designed around one principle. Easy to get in, impossible to get out. A 30-meter drop to the first floor, even the guards can't leave. They bring a rope ladder for shift changes. Anything else? Jackie asked. No. Caleb shook his head. That's all I know. Ow. He felt his forehead where Uncle delivered his titular dope slap. We cannot break into prison if we don't know what prison is like. We only know first floor, but not the rest. Uncle chastised. Jin is right. Yan Lin agreed. Without more information, we'd be running blind. Jackie then took out his cell phone and began to dial a number. I'm going to call Captain Black. I think I have an idea on how to scout it. Meridian, Caverger Prison. The largest of the chambers, which appeared to be the main prison area, was massive. Over 100 meters from the previous roof to the bottom. The cells appeared to be lined along the circular walls, with a series of bridges connecting the opposite sides together, making it easier for guards to patrol the area. Last day before the shift change, and some fool tries to break out. One of two guards huffed in annoyance. They then heard an animalistic growl coming from below. Looking over the bridge, the pair spotted a large hole in the middle of the floor that appeared to stretch down into a pit beneath the prison level. The scuttlers are getting restless. Should we feed them? You do that against orders, it'll be us they're feeding on. As they walked away, their conversation did not go unnoticed by Jackie Chan, who appeared to be in his astral form, like that of a ghost, completely invisible and intangible to everyone else as he hovered in midair. Scuttlers. He asked himself as he hovered down toward the hole at the bottom to get a closer look. However, once he saw the monstrous creatures, he instantly regretted his curiosity. They were giant insect-like monsters, and he could have sworn he saw bones and even a few skulls on the ground around them. Those are definitely going to be a problem, Astral Jackie thought to himself as he hovered up a little higher to get a good look at the chamber he was in. The first floor seems to be only the entrance, the second is the armory, this must be where the cells are. But where are the cells? He questioned as he floated around one of the walls to see nothing that resembled any kind of cell he was familiar with. He then spotted a single guard walking toward one of the walls with a bucket in hand, before stopping at a pillar when it suddenly moved upward almost automatically, revealing a cell with a single prisoner inside that looked like he hadn't been fed in a long time. Here, dinner. The guard said as he carelessly tossed the bucket toward him, the prisoner grabbing the bucket and eating whatever was edible inside. The guard left him be as the pillar lowered itself. So that's how it's done. Astral Jackie thought to himself as he looked around a bit more. Too many to search, and I don't want to take any chances there are magical traps or anything that I may set off. But we will rescue Elion's parents, and everyone imprisoned here. He then flew straight up, unaware that in one of the cells behind him, Alborn and Meridian slept, trying to find what comfort they could in each other's arms despite the horrid conditions they faced. Uncle's rare finds. An active portal shined in the back room as the group consisting of Will, Jade, Irma, Uncle, Heilin, Terani, Alchemy, Cornelia, Toru, Yan Lin, and Caleb, sat around a bed where Jackie's unconscious body laid, with the sheep talisman in hand. Blanc was present, but he seemed to be preoccupied with eating some beef jerky, only for Scruffy to leap up and take a piece from Blanc's hands. No. Bad dog. That Blanc's. The pasling chastised as he tried to take back the piece of jerky, which Scruffy pulled back on with a growl, prompting the two to engage in a game of tug-of-war for the meaty treat. So, he's asleep? Alchemy asked, trying to understand what was going on. Not quite. Toru replied. The sheep talisman has the ability of astral projection. It allows your soul to leave your body in the form of an astral spirit, not too dissimilar from a ghost. However, your astral form is completely invisible and intangible to everything else on the earthly plane, making it the perfect power for scouting. Caleb deduced. Correct. Toru confirmed. But there's a catch. Jade said. Your body is still vulnerable in the real world. So, if it dies, you die too. Yeah, I can see why you guys haven't used the sheep talisman before. Will understood. Not exactly handy in a fight. Perhaps not, but it does serve a purpose here for us. Uncle said. Right as he said that the invisible and intangible form of Astral Jackie flew through the portal before descending back into his body, causing him to wake up. Jackie, you're back. Heilin stated with a wide smile as Scruffy leapt up to give Jackie a series of doggy kisses. Yes, I'm back. Jackie laughed between the licks as Jade pulled Scruffy away. So did you find Elion's parents? Cornelia asked. I'm afraid not. Jackie shook his head. There were over 100 cells in that prison, but I do have a layout of the entire building. Good, Which means we should have a plan then. A familiar female voice spoke up, causing Jackie to look in surprise as he saw from the entrance of the back room a familiar trio of allies. Viper, El Toro, and don't forget, El Paco Fuerte. Paco announced his presence as well. What are all of you doing here? Jackie asked. Jade called us for assistance. El Toro began to explain. You are about to break into a heavily fortified magical fortress, and we will provide what aid we can. Speaking as someone who's broken into all sorts of high-security places on a regular basis, this seems up my alley too. Viper added. Despite his surprise, Jackie smiled in appreciation. Thank you for coming. Yes, we could use your assistance with this one. Hey, I just realized something. Hey, Lin pointed out. This whole gang hasn't been together since that whole thing with Valmont's auction. Yeah, good times. Irma smiled reminiscently. J-Witch and the J-Team together again. Jade smirked. Time to get to work. In a short amount of time, Jackie had brought out a large whiteboard with a marker as he began to draw out a series of pictures to illustrate what he found with Cavigor to the rest of the group. From what I was able to find, Cavigor is a massive prison built underground. Jackie began as he drew a basic model of the prison itself. Its layout seems rather simple with 4 floors. There is the top floor, which has a 30-meter drop with no stairs, ladder, or anything of that nature. Below that, is the armory. It's also the common area where the guards appear to have their meals, as well as dormitories for them to sleep. The third and largest floor appears to house the cells. There are over 100 windowless cells from top to bottom. The cells are completely sealed by stone. Finally, the basement, which appears to house these insect-like monsters the guards called scutters. I've heard of them, Caleb said. They're giant man-eating bugs. Very nasty. Well, that's just great. Viper said with annoyed sigh. I'm not the biggest bug fun. It's kinda ironic. Terani pointed out with a smirk. Considering your namesake can eat bugs. Yeah, well I'm on a low-tick diet. Viper replied in a slight joking sense of her own. So now that we can open portals with the heart, can't we just go in, get everyone, and get out? Jade asked. Too risky. Uncle disagreed. If we open portals willy-nilly, forces of darkness will realize we have Seal of Phobos. Yeah, it's probably safer to keep that handy trick a secret for now. We'll seem to agree. Then why don't we use the Infinite City? Cornelia suggested. I can use my powers to dig our way up from there. What is this Infinite City? El Toro asked. It's basically an underground maze that stretches in all directions throughout Meridian with no end in sight. Toru replied. Theoretically, we could go directly under the prison from there. I remember you telling me that in one of your letters, Jade. Paco pointed to his pen pal. Is it really endless? So far as we can tell, yep. Jade confirmed. It's got a real good echo vibe to it though. You could have a wicked concert down there. But, if we're too careless, we could risk exposing the Infinite City, which could put the entire rebellion in danger. Caleb pointed out. Then why don't we go all out with a full assault? Irma asked. I mean, we got numbers, we got power, and we got the talismans. We could probably bulldoze our way through all the guards. Considering all the attacks we've dealt to Phobos before, even those on his own castle, he may very well expect a frontal assault on Cavigor. Yan Lin replied. So, I don't think that is the best idea. Alchemy then snapped her fingers. What if we do both? What do you mean? Terani asked. We could split into 2 groups. Alchemy began. One group attack from above, to draw out all the bad guys, while the other one comes up from underground, sneaks in, and gets Elion's parents and all the other prisoners. Then we can use the heart to open a portal, we sneak everyone out, and no one's the wiser. That's, actually, a great idea. We'll realized as everyone came to the same conclusion. Misdirection. Viper nodded in agreement. I've pulled a few similar stunts before, works every time. But how will we find Elion's parents? Cornelia asked. We won't recognize them in their Meridian form. Jade gave her titular scoff. Uncle could just whip up a locator spell from one of their things left behind at their house, duh. Yes, that is something Uncle can do. The elderly Kai wizard confirmed. However, there is also the possibility that Daolon Wong could have enchanted the prison. Then we have Blunk the Bloodhound sniff them out. Jade pointed to the aforementioned Pasling, who stood up to salute. Blanc report for duty. Scruffy then ran up to Jade's side and barked with anticipation. Looks like Scruffy wants in on the action too. Don't you boy? Hey Lin gushed. If we're really doing this, then we cannot afford to hold anything back. Jackie said as he brought out a metal briefcase and placed it on the table in the middle of the group. I know I've always said how we should exercise restraint, but given all that is at stake, not just Elion's parents, but possibly over 100 more innocent lives, I believe we may be justified to forego restraint just this once. He opened the case to reveal all the remaining talismans, which shined brilliantly. Snake is my name on it. Viper took the snake talisman with a smirk. I will take the ox. El Toro also took the talisman of super strength as his own. And I will take the rabbit. Paco tried to imitate El Toro by taking the talisman of speed. I call Dragon and Rooster. Alchemy plucked both talismans in her hands. Scruffy will hold onto the safety dog and get a little extra muscle to add onto it. Jade attached both the dog and monkey talismans to his collar as he barked with anticipation. And, since Jackie said we could go all out here, she pulled out the rat talisman before glancing with a smirk to the Super Moose toy sitting on the shelf in the corner. She pointed the talisman at it to shoot magic and bring it to life. Moose is in on the loose. The animated toy Super Moose announced dramatically. At the same time, Toru drew the pig talisman while Jackie took the horse. I will take this just in case Elion's parents or any of the other prisoners are seriously hurt. Jackie said. Alright, here are the teams. We'll begin. Irma, Terani, Cornelia, Toru, El Toro, Paco, Alchemy, you guys are part of the distraction team with Scruffy and Super Moose. Jackie, Viper, Jade, Cornelia, Caleb, Uncle, Blanc and I will sneak in from the infinite city below. She held out the heart of Kandrakar, which already began to shine. Time to get to work. Cavergar Prison. Alborn and Myriadel continued to sit in their cell as the door opened and a guard came in with a tray of food. Dinner, traitors. He set it down and began to leave. They both looked in minor surprise to see instead of the usual mess of scraps, it was actually a nice and well-prepped meal. Why? Alborn questioned. Guess you got friends in high places. The guard replied before closing the door. Alborn looked skeptically at the food, but Myriadel placed her hand on his. Alborn, we need our strength. We have to eat, she said, which seemed to be enough for him to sit down and begin eating the food along with her. Alright, so everyone knows the plan. We'll ask the group as she, along with Irma, Heylin, Jade, Terani, and Cornelia all donned their respective guardian forms and stood with Jackie, Uncle, Caleb, Toru, Viper, El Toro, Paco, along with Blanc, Scruffy, and Super Moose. They were all just outside the hidden entrance to the Infinite City. We all got our talismans and Section 13 communicators. All right here. Terani confirmed as she and everyone else showed their chosen talismans, with each person having an earpiece to communicate with over a long distance. Good. It is important we maintain constant communication with one another. Jackie instructed. Good luck everyone. With that, the group split off. Jackie, Will, Jade, Cornelia, Caleb, Viper, Uncle, and Blanc went down into the Infinite City, while Heylin, Terani, Irma, Alchemy, and Super Moose took to the skies, along with Scruffy taking the form of a giant pterodactyl to allow El Toro, Toru, and Paco to climb on and fly with them. It didn't take long for the attack group to get to Cavagor, and just as they planned, began to hover directly over the hole. Will, we're directly over the hole. Terani contacted her leader. Standing by to attack when you give the signal. Roger. Whoa, Viper looked around at the endless tunnels that laid before her and the rest of the stealth group. And here I thought the name was just a metaphor for something. I just got word from the others, they're directly over the prison and standing by. Will said as she held out the heart of Kandrakar. How exactly does this work again? Viper asked. Just so that I can understand it. The heart of Kandrakar connects all 6 guardians together. Jackie tried to explain. Since Will is the bearer of the heart, she herself is able to connect to Irma, Heylin, and Terani despite how far away they are from our location. And we use that to locate the prison from underground. Viper deduced with a smirk. Clever. Thank you. Will smiled as the heart began to shine. Streams of blue, orange, and white energy shot out in one direction, pointing to where the 3 aforementioned guardians were currently located. This way. She led the group in the direction the heart pointed to her. Meanwhile, Elion sat in the gardens of the castle, practicing her magic on her own as she focused it on a single closed rosé. With just a tiny bit of effort, the rose opened up without her having so much as touched it. She quickly sketched it in her sketchpad. "You've improved so much," Phobos pointed out as he appeared behind her, and she looked up to him with a playful smile. "I know. Back when you first told me I had all this power, I was scared," Elion began. "But now, it just feels so natural." "As it should," Phobos replied. "This power is a part of you, and you will do great things with it." "I certainly hope so," Elion said as she stood up. "Maybe I can help you end all this fighting." "One can hope," Phobos nodded. "But in the meantime, Cedric and Wong are off to retrieve your adoptive parents." "Great. Thanks again, really." She smiled as she looked in the direction her brother was looking, where they saw Wong and Cedric leaving the castle grounds, with a small army of soldiers behind them, much to her own concern. Why so many soldiers? If the rebels or the guardians were to get a hold of them, I'd never forgive myself. Phobos said in a seemingly assured tone. "Okay, I get it." Elion seemed to understand. "Oh, I'm gonna make some decorations for their room. And I guess I'd better clean my room. For some reason, they were always bugging me about that on Earth." Phobos chuckled slightly. "Our birth mother was the same with me when I was around your age. I was quite the slob in my youth." "You, a slob? Get out of here." Elion laughed as she playfully pushed his side, causing him to smirk in response. Back in Cavigor, the cell that belonged to Alborn and Nereidel opened as the guard that delivered their food entered to see they had eaten everything, and had dazed expressions on their faces, almost as if they were hypnotized. "Oh good, you've eaten. We need to have a talk about your wonderful new life, so you can tell Princess Elion all about it." Infinite City. The streams of blue, white, and orange energy that shined from the heart of Kandrakar shot straight up toward the ceiling. "Okay, we're directly underneath Cavigor," Will said as she and the rest of the stealth group got ready, with Jackie accessing his communications device. "We're in position. Begin the distraction now," Jackie told them. "Give em hell, guys." Jade cheered. "Oh, you got it." They heard Irma's response and could already imagine the smirk on her face. "Cornelia, you cannot push the rock up into the prison," Caleb told the blonde. "You've got to lower it, quietly." "Hey, I'm blonde, not dense," Cornelia stated. "I'm just saying," Caleb said. "I know," Cornelia replied. "Those two are not good at this at all, are they?" Viper whispered to Jade with a smirk. "No." Jade shook her head while Blanc laughed. "Ow. Ow." Both Cornelia and Caleb felt their foreheads where Uncle delivered his dope slap. "Flirt later, break into prison now. So do not just stand there, get cracking," Uncle chastised. Okay, I got it." Cornelia then channeled her power directly into the ceiling above her, causing it to crack as she began to telekinetically lower the boulders and rocks to the ground as slow as she could. "Is that quiet enough for you?" Back in Phobos Castle, Elion worked alongside Miranda, Finn, Ratso, and Chow, and several maids, to get the room prepped for Alborn and Nereidel's arrival. "They are going to love this," Elion stated with an excited smile. "Thanks for helping, Miranda." "Oh, no problem," Miranda replied. "I heard it's a long trip, they're gonna be tired when they get here. You shouldn't ask them too many questions." "I get it." Elion nodded in understanding before turning to the Dark Kai enforcers. "And you guys too, thanks for your help. Hey, least we could do for a sweet kid like you." Ratso ruffled her hair, causing her to chuckle. "I've been meaning to ask you guys, you're not from Meridian, are you?" she asked, causing the enforcers to look in surprise. "I've kinda noticed how different people in Meridian act from those on Earth, and you act like you're from there." "Well, that's 'cause we are," Chow replied as he and his friends tried to explain without revealing certain details that made them uncomfortable. "We weren't always orange. Yeah, in fact, this is us." Finn reached into his clothing to pull out an old picture of him, Ratso, and Chow in their human forms and handed it to Elion. "So how did you guys end up like this?" she asked, referring to their current appearances. "Well, a whole bunch of crazy stuff happened, and we got sucked into this world where Wong enslaved." Ratso tried to explain but was quickly interrupted by Chow. "Enhanced us. Yeah, He supercharged us with magic and we're like this now. Kinda like my friends and how they can transform. Elion asked, referring to the Guardians. Something like that, only we can't change back. Finn replied as he gave a small sigh. But I do miss being human, I kinda miss the old days when we wouldn't have to deal with all this magic stuff. Life was a lot simpler back then. Let me guess, you sang in disco bands at weddings, right? Elion asked almost playfully. How do you know? Finn replied with a smile. I was Employee of the Month at Sunglass Shack, 3 times. Chow revealed. I studied theoretical physics. Ratso added. No offense, little E. But this whole magic stuff might seem kind of fun to you, it's kinda caused us more headaches than we would like. Finn said. And broken bones. Chow added. And literal scars. Ratso also added. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear all that. Elion said sincerely before trying to perk them up. But, hey, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're here with me. I think you guys are pretty awesome. She wrapped her arms around Ratso in the form of a hug, surprising him and his friends before Ratso patted her head. I said it before, and I'll say it again, you're the sweetest thing we've met. Ratso said with a warm smile, but Finn and Chow looked toward each other with concern, knowing that there were other forces at work here that may harm Elion. That's when the two, along with Ratso, shared serious expressions, silently vowing to each other that they would not let any harm come to Elion. She was a sweet kid, and they would not let anyone hurt her, be they Phobos, Cedric, Daolon Wong, or even Tarakudo. Do really you believe Mr. Chan and the Guardians will attack your prison? Tarakudo asked the Dark Prince as he sat on his throne. I may not have any proof of it, but I wouldn't put it past them. Phobos replied. They have a proclivity for showing up at the most unexpected of times. Which is why I need you there, as well. Then it shall be done. Tarakudo nodded as he vanished from sight. It pleased Phobos to know that he had a partner that he could actually depend on, which is more he could say for 2 certain individuals that he began to suspect were never truly loyal to him to begin with. Time to make some noise. Terani said as she launched a series of fireballs into the prison via the entrance hole, with Alchemy backing her up with blasts from the Dragon Talisman, while Heilin and Irma combining their powers to create an icy storm before blasting it into the prison entrance. Meanwhile, Toru, El Toro, Super Moose, and Scruffy, in the form of a gorilla, began to throw a multitude of rocks into the prison. Even Paco threw several smaller rocks to contribute. The commotion already shook up the upper levels of the prison, alerting all the guards present before drawing their weapons and sounding the alarm to call the remaining guards as they made their way upstairs. Yeah, that should get their attention. Irma smirked. Here they come. Heilin pointed to more than 24 guards that already made their way to the upper floor. However, before they even began to attack, they were more than shocked to see Scruffy, in the form of a pterodactyl yet again, flying in with a screech. El Toro, Toru, and Paco were on his back before jumping off to the sides when they got closer to the ground. Scruffy then transformed into the form of a tiger before pouncing onto a shocked guard with a growl. Heyo! El Toro sounded his titular luchador call before leaping forward headfirst to deliver a powerful headbutt with super strength to send one guard crashing into the group behind him. Several more tried to surround the luchador, but he easily overpowered them with his talisman-enhanced strength to throw them all over the place. Toru, meanwhile, grabbed one guard to lift him up and throw him into 3 more before using the pig talisman to blast heat beams from his eyes at several others, while using his own physical strength to keep any guards that got close to him at bay. Several newly arrived guards tried to keep their distance as they made their way to the farthest wall and aimed their arrows at the attackers, but Paco, using the speed of the rabbit talisman, zoomed in to swipe the bows and arrows from them in a blur. No weapons inside the ring. Paco chastised before rushing toward one guard to leap and wrap his legs around his face, pulling him down with his talisman-enhanced speed to flip him over and into several more guards before zooming around each of the others to unleash a series of amateur luchador moves with such speed that the guards had no idea what hit them before it was too late. But, several more guards continued to climb up the stairs as they tried to overwhelm the intruders, but before they could even attack. Antler action. Super Moose flew in with Irma, Heilin, Terani, and Alchemy flying alongside him to unleash blasts of their respective elements, or talisman power in Alchemy's case, to blast many guards back while Super Moose used physical attacks on the guards they missed. Alright guys, we definitely got their attention. Hey Lin said over their communications device to the stealth group. You guys do your stealth thing, and don't worry about us, we got plenty to keep us busy. The alarm's sound had reached well past the perimeter of the prison, straight toward the approaching army being led by Cedric and Daolon Wang, which the former halted at the sound of the alarm bell ringing. There's something going on at the prison entrance, Cedric commented. Wang then waved his scepter to create a flat magical projection to show them the situation taking place, causing him to sneer in annoyance. The Guardians and their allies. He hissed. Zen. He summoned Hawk Fu to his side, just as Cedric transformed into his humanoid serpent form. Charge! Cedric ordered as the army began their advance toward the prison. Meanwhile, in the lowermost level of Cavergar, a hole suddenly formed as the stealth group flew their way up from the Infinite City. Will carried Jackie, Jade carried Viper and Uncle, Cornelia carried Caleb with Blanc hanging onto her. Nice work, C. Will congratulated Cornelia once they arrived in the smelly pit. Why thank you, W. Cornelia replied. Cornelia, seal the hole now. Jackie ordered, to which Cornelia nodded as he began to use her earth powers to close up the hole behind them. Ah, gross. Viper covered her noose. This place smells worse than a back alley dumpster. And I'm guessing they're why. Jade pointed in a nervous tone toward the large group of scuttlers that crawled out of the shadows and made their way towards the group, hungry for their next meal. Scuttlers, right? Will asked nervously. Yep. Caleb confirmed as he drew his katana. Really seeing why you don't like bugs. Will said to Viper. I like normal bugs just fine, it's only when they're the size of a car and want to eat you that I have a problem. Viper commented. Bah, this is how Uncle sprays for bugs. Uncle drew his blowfish to blast a stun spell at the closest scuttler. Everyone, scatter. Jackie ordered. Give them multiple targets. With that, everyone ran off in separate directions. Uncle used his blowfish to fire many more stun spells, blasting back any scuttlers that tried to get close. Jackie picked up a large stick from the pile of halt-eaten filth and plunged it into the mouth of the closest scuttlers. The large insect tried to push back, but Jackie flipped over to land behind before running toward 3 more that tried to get to him. He then jumped and landed on the top of one and allowed the other 2 to leap toward him before he leapt off, causing them to pile over each other. Viper found herself cornered by 4 scuttlers, but she quickly used the snake talisman to turn herself invisible, confusing the massive insects as their prey vanished from sight. One felt a powerful kick across its side, causing it to instinctively leap toward where it thought its prey was, only to end up crashing into another one of its own. Another scuttler felt an invisible strike at its face, and the final one felt its antennas being pulled by the same force that pulled it into the disoriented one, knocking them both down. Jade flew down to cover Caleb's back, the latter holding his own katana while the former drew her own shadow katana as 5 scuttlers surrounded them. One leapt toward Jade, but she sliced its face off with her own shadow katana, while Caleb used his to impale the second. He then slid around the third to slice at its side, while Jade decapitated the fourth with her shadow katana before morphing it into a spear to impale the final one as it leapt toward her. Blanc clung to Will for dear life as she delivered a roundhouse kick to one scuttler back before flying up to meet Cornelia in the air. These things are a lot tougher than they look. Cornelia commented. Don't suppose there's a giant gate nearby and we can pull a Luke Skywalker versus Rancor on them. No, but maybe you have the right idea. Try caving in the entire chamber, crush them or bury them alive. Will instructed. You got it. Cornelia concentrated her powers all around the chamber, which already began to shake violently. Everyone out. Now, Will shouted as she flew down, with Blanc screaming the whole way, to grab both Jackie and Viper, while Jade grabbed Uncle and they flew upward just as the walls around the chamber began to collapse. The largest of the debris began to crush several of the remaining scuttlers while the rest were being buried alive. The group was able to fly out of the hole and into the main prison level just as a massive dust cloud come out. Viper was the first to sigh in relief. Glad that's over with. Give me high-tech security over man-eating bugs any day. Let us find Alborn and Myriadel, and then we will liberate everyone else. Jackie stated as Uncle pulled out a dried lizard, which was already glowing green with Kai magic. Locator spells says this way. Uncle began to lead the way, while Blunk also pulled out a shirt and began to sniff it. Blunk also have scent. Same direction. Show time. He and Uncle lead the rest of the group toward the cell blocks. Back in the top floor, nearly every single guard that had occupied the prison now laid in a large pile, beaten and bruised, most unconscious, others groaning in pain, but all were soundly defeated as the group consisting of Irma, Terani, Heilin, Toru, El Toro, Paco, Alchemy, and Super Moose stood proudly, even Scruffy barked in excitement. Yeah, who's a good evil butt kicker? You are. Yes, you are. Heilin gushed as she scratched Scruffy behind the ears in congratulatory fashion. You think there's a record for how many bad guys beaten up in one sitting? 'Cause I think we just broke it. Irma said with pride. All in a day's work. Super Moose said in the same tone. We must not rest on our laurels. The battle is not over. El Toro told the group. Agreed, we still have our mission to complete. Toru said. Suddenly, Scruffy began to growl as he looked directly up, much to everyone's surprise. Scruffy, what's wrong, boy? Terani asked. Everyone, something is coming. El Paco pointed directly up toward the entrance in the ceiling where they could all see a faint blue light, growing larger and larger, until it was revealed that it was actually coming closer, almost like a meteor falling from the heavens. Meteor brings mass extinction, the Dark Kai Hawk Fu exclaimed as he fell, surrounded by intense dark blue magic, gunning straight for the heroes. Incoming! Alchemy screamed as they all tried to clear the way, but it was too late as Hawk Fu fell completely through the hole and straight onto the ground of the main entrance with such explosive results that it not only blew the heroes and the downed guards away, but caved in the entire floor that sent every individual falling and screaming toward the armory. Fortunately, Heilin was able to act quickly as she blew a massive gust of wind toward the floor of the armory to halt and cushion the descent of all her friends to avoid any fatalities. What hit us? Irma questioned as they tried to recover. I did. They looked in shock to see Hawk Fu standing tall amidst a pile of rubble, and even several guards that were hurt even further, or no longer lived. And he wasn't the only one. Daolan Wang also appeared in a puff of dark blue smoke, and even Cedric roared as he began to crawl down from the main entrance at the top, all the way down to the second floor, followed by the army of guards that dropped down via ropes. Toru, El Toro, and Super Moose were the first to get up and take a solid stand against the new wave of enemies. Even Scruffy got red as he transformed into a Cerberus once again. But, while Irma, Heilin, Terani, Paco, and Alchemy were also back on their feet, they looked more than a little nervous. Bad day, Heilin gulped. Meanwhile, back in the cell blocks, Uncle and Blunk continued to lead Jackie, Will, Jade, Cornelia, Viper, and Caleb as Uncle's dried lizard glowed its brightest at one of the cells. Elion's parents are here, Uncle said. Are you sure? Cornelia wanted to be absolutely certain. Blunk took a sniff to be certain. Yes. Here. Good, cause we got more trouble. Will just got off her communications device. Cedric and Wang just showed up with a small army. The others are holding them off, but they might need help. Then let's get everyone out of here so we can help them. Jade said. Agreed. Jackie turned to Cornelia. There is a way to open the cells, but you should be able to do it yourself. Got it. Cornelia channeled her earth power onto the stone cell, which caused the pillar to lift to reveal Alborn and Myriadel, with oddly content looks on their faces. Oh, hello. Are you delivering the fresh cream? Myriadel asked politely. Are you sure this is them? Viper asked. I'm certain. Jackie nodded. I saw them once in their true forms, this is them. He quickly went to the pair. Quickly, Alborn, Myriadel, we must leave now. Leave? Alborn asked, speaking in a trance-like state. Why? We live in such a beautiful mountain. Mountain? Jade questioned. Hello. We're a few hundred feet underground in a prison full of monsters. Caleb had noticed the tray of food in the cell and picked up a bowl for a quick sniff. Phobos put something in their food. He drugged his sister's adoptive parents. Viper questioned before a disgusted look fell on her face. Wow. I've seen a lot of scumbags, but that guy takes the cake. Can't you make some kind of spell to fix them up? Will asked Uncle, while Blunk helped himself to some of the leftover food on the tray. No. Without knowing what Phobos had used, I do not know what ingredients used to make a cure. Uncle replied. You won't have to. Jackie said as he brandished the horse talisman. But I thought the horse talisman can only heal people. Caleb recalled. And they don't look injured. It can also cure diseases. Jade pointed out. When someone is drugged, their nervous system is often damaged in some way. Jackie explained. Though it can be used for medical treatment, the drug itself causes damage. And the horse talisman can repair that damage. Jackie placed the horse talisman on Myriadel's shoulder first, causing an aura of the talisman's magic to spread around her and purge the drug from her system. She gave a gasp as her hallucination came to an end. Wah, where? She looked around in shock before Cornelia put her hands on her shoulders. Mrs. Brown. It's me, Cornelia. Do you remember me? She asked as Jackie Quickie used the horse talisman to purge Alborn of the drug as well. Yes, I remember. Myriadel responded as Alborn came to his senses and they were helped outside of the cell. Thank you, he said to Jackie. But there are other prisoners here. We know, and we're going to free all of them. Jackie assured. And we gotta hurry, because the bad guys upstairs might have something to say about that. Viper commented. They're not the only ones. Jade said as she felt a shiver down her spine. 'Cause I got the willies. That got everyone's attention. Which usually means, Will said with a wince. That you are in the presence of the king. A pair of yellow eyes appeared along the stone wall before the face of the Lord of all Oni emerged to reveal himself. Tarakudo. Jade, Uncle, Jackie, Will, and Caleb all screamed, while Viper made a combat stance and Alborn and Myriadel clung to each other in fright. Ooh, pretty smiling son. Blanc said in a dazed expression as he now appeared to be drugged by the food. The Oni King tried to unleash a powerful psychic blast, but Jade quickly conjured up a wall of shadow magic to block it. Jackie, you know where the thing is to open up all the cells, right? Will asked as Jade flew out into the open, with Tarakudo chasing after her. Yes. Jackie responded with an unsure nod. He knew where the mechanism was from his earlier scout but wasn't sure he liked where Will was going with this. Then take Viper, Alborn, and Myriadel with you and get all these cells open. The rest of us will keep Tarakudo busy. Will said. What? I can't leave you here. Jackie stated. You have to. Will stated. We can keep the bad guys occupied. You're fast enough to get everything else done. Open the cells, and tell everyone else to meet us here, we'll have a portal ready. But, Jackie still tried to protest, but Viper put a hand on his shoulder. Jackie, they're right, she told him. I've seen them a few times to know they got this, and you should too. You trained them, after all. You know they can take care of themselves, so it's time to let them. Though his protective nature told differently, Jackie's heart knew Viper was right. He had seen how strong each of these girls had grown, even Jade. They were still young, but they were not kids anymore. They were guardians. All right, just be careful. Jackie nodded. He then turned to Alborn and Myriadel. Let's go. He began to run with the pair. However, the drugged Blanc continued to look dazed. Nice goat, he petted what he thought was a goat, but was really thin air, before Viper pulled him away and followed after Jackie, Alborn, and Myriadel. Jade blasted a column of shadow flame at Tarakudo, which he blasted away with his own psychic powers before unleashing another powerful wave at Jade to send her flying back, but she quickly stabilized herself. You've grown strong, my fallen queen. Tarakudo commented. It's a shame you choose to stay with your worthless friends rather than with me. Please, I didn't have a choice in the matter, you freaking brainwashed me. Jade exclaimed. And you only did that because you know I wouldn't join you on my own terms. And I never will. 'Cause she's got real friends by her side. Tarakudo looked from behind to see Cornelia use her powers to telekinetically launch a volley of large rocks at him, but the Oni King used his own powers to shatter the rocks to dust. However, that dust actually served as the perfect smokescreen for Caleb to leap up and slice at Tarakudo, effectively scratching him just below the eyes and causing him to hiss in pain. Ah. What is this? Tarakudo winced as Caleb landed on the bridge below him. I coated my sword in onion juice before I came here. The young rebel revealed with a smirk. We kinda had a feeling we'd run into you again. Oni magic must be defeated by onion magic. Uncle stated as he stood from the other side of the bridge, wielding a dual pair of dried lizards, glowing with green Kai magic. You're pretty powerful Tarakudo. Will said as she flew by Jade's side along with Cornelia. But we know you're kryptonite, and when you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Tarakudo narrowed his eyes in return. Fine then. Time to take off the kid gloves. He then began to unleash one of the most powerful psychic waves he could muster. So powerful that it began to shake up the entire prison. Back in the armory, as well as the shaft that consisted of the first and second floors, it was an absolute war zone as the heroic and villainous forces threw everything they had at each other. Heilin spun herself around to create a massive tornado to blow back as many guards around her as she could. Alchemy kept her covered by hovering in place with the rooster talisman and blasting any guard she saw with the dragon talisman. Hako continued to run at super speeds thanks to the rabbit talisman, while unleashing whatever luchador techniques he knew to disable any guard that was in his way. Even Scruffy, still in his Cerberus form, pounced on every guard he saw, lashing out with literal tooth and claw. Antler action. Super Moose announced as he flew to a guard to deck him in the face and send him flying. He then flew over the sword slice a second before flying back down to smack him on his helmeted head. Can you feel the love? Can you, punks? He questioned as he flew toward another group of guards to deck the one up front first. At the same time, Irma brought her hands to the wall to blast out a massive current of water toward Daolon Wang, who quickly erected a barrier of dark magic to shield himself and allow the water to veer around him. However, this also left him vulnerable for Terani to throw a series of fireballs at him from above, resulting in a series of explosions that Wang could barely shield himself from. However, he was able to recover quickly enough to go on the offensive and blast bolts of dark magic at the two guardians that dared attack him. Meanwhile, El Toro knocked down one more guard before he found himself face to face with the Dark Kai warrior, Hak Fu, who took a martial arts stance before making a "come here" gesture with his hand. El Toro took a solid luchador stance in response and flexed his joints before readying himself. "Come," he challenged, resulting in Hak Fu attacking. Dragon charges Bull. He charged at Hak Fu, his body coated in surging dark magic like a meteor, but El Toro stood his ground as he held Hak Fu back. Though the impact caused El Toro to slid back slightly, he dug his feet in, thanks to the strength of the Ox Talisman before lifting Hak Fu over his head and flipping him behind to the ground. However, Hak Fu proved quick enough to recover and leap over him before going on the attack again. Demon crushes Bison. He tried to bring both his feet down onto his enemy as he fell, but El Toro leapt back to avoid the crushing impact before jumping backwards towards the wall, landing his feet on it before jumping forward to propel himself with a powerful headbutt to send Hak Fu flying and crashing into the wall. Though Hak Fu was able to pull himself from the wall, he fell to his knees slightly as he glanced up to see the smirking El Toro, ready for round 2. El Toro battles El Diablo. He smirked, using Hak Fu's own shtick against him, causing the evil martial artist to roar with fury as he leapt at his opponent. At the same time, Toru appeared to be in a stare down of sorts as he glared at the humanoid snake that was known as Cedric. Cedric, in turn, glared daggers at Toru. Both giants narrowed their eyes at each other before making the first move to charge at each other. They grappled with each other at first, pressing their respective strength against the other. However, rather than push back against him, Cedric lifted Toru off his feet, taking him by surprise before he snapped his tail to send Toru rolling across the ground. Before he even had the chance to get back up, Cedric was already on him as he grabbed him by the throat with both his hands and slammed him against the wall in the attempt to strangle him. "I admit I underestimated you, warrior," Cedric hissed. "But that will not happen again. This time, I'll squeeze the life out of you. And all your little guardian friends will be next." The mention of the girls coming to harm caused Toru to glare hatefully at the humanoid snake. Burn. He blasted Cedric with heat beam eyes, thanks to the pig talisman he still had on hand, causing Cedric to roar and hiss in pain as the painful blast not only burned him, but also sent him crashing back onto the ground. Back in the cell block, Jade tried to lash out with shadow claws at Tarakudo, but he hovered above her before blasting her with a powerful psychic wave that sent her crashing through one bridge and landing on one below. Will tried to come in with flying roundhouse kick of her own, but Tarakudo grabbed her telekinetically before tossing her into a pillar hard along the cell wall. Tarakudo was put on the defensive as he felt a pain sensation on the back of his head, courtesy of Uncle with his anti-Oni stun spells. However, after the first blast, Tarakudo flew to avoid the others before prying a series of rocks from all over before bringing them together in the form of a large shield to protect himself. But this left him vulnerable from behind again as Caleb tried to rush toward Tarakudo from the bridge under him, leaping toward him to slash with his katana, only to find the same invisible force grabbing hold of him and preventing him from falling or moving any further. Tarakudo shook his head. I know better to mess with that sword now. So go take 5, kid. He sent Caleb flying hard to crash into the cell wall as well. Oh no, you didn't. Cornelia exclaimed as he flew straight toward Tarakudo, throwing a series of small objects of him, before clenching her fist to use her power and crush the objects, creating a powder that spread all around Tarakudo. Really? A smokescreen. Getting desperate, Art. Suddenly, Tarakudo began to cough. Getting desperate, he struggled as he not only coughed, but his eyes began to water with green energy as he felt a familiar stinging sensation. Not. He cried out in pain as he flew out of the smokescreen. That's not smoke. No, onion powder. Cornelia smirked as she carried a set of onions that hovered around her. I'm the Earth Guardian, and onions are vegetables. What do vegetables grow out of again? She crushed the onions into powder with her powers and sent the cloud of powder straight for Tarakudo, causing him to cough and cry again from the painful sting. Clever. But cleverness only gets you so far. Tarakudo exclaimed as he unleashed one of the most powerful psychic waves possible to blast the cloud back, as well as Cornelia. Then how about a straight-up beatdown? Jade exclaimed as she shot straight toward Tarakudo, shadow magic coating her fists as she went on the offensive. Meanwhile, Will pulled herself up from where she was tossed as Uncle approached her. I know I talked a big game earlier, but I don't have a single thing that can actually hurt him. I don't know Kai spells, I can't control onions, I mean I can throw them, but that's about it. She turned to Uncle. You got any bright ideas, because I don't. Yes, I do. Uncle said as he took the Heart of Kandrakar in his hands. Heart of Kandrakar is comparable with Kai magic, you've seen it before. And Uncle may know a spell that will enable you to battle the Oni. He finished with a smirk. Really? What do you got? She asked, ready for anything at this point. Tarakudo continued to blast wave after wave in a near-desperate attempt to keep the heroes at bay, which seemed to be working as they were knocked down and blasted back for the umpteenth time. I'm starting to get annoyed with these little tricks. Tarakudo stated. What else can you? However, he was interrupted as he happened to overhear a familiar chant from a level below him. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. The Oni King turned in surprise to see Uncle and Will reciting the chant, the Heart of Kandrakar in both their hands as the crystal began to change from its normal pink glow to a bright green. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Tarakudo's eyes widened, realizing what was going on and tried to unleash a powerful psychic wave in a desperate bid to stop them. But it was too late, a powerful surge of good magic shined around them to shield themselves from Tarakudo's attack. When the light subsided, Will's hands were glowing with the same kind of green magic that was currently shining with the Heart of Kandrakar. Uncle smirked toward Will. Go kick his butt. With pleasure. Will smirked back before shooting straight toward Tarakudo, who was so stunned that he was unable to defend himself against a solid punch from Will, her fist surging with good magic, which sent the Oni King flying and crashing hard against the wall. Whoa! Jade exclaimed as she, Cornelia, and Caleb were more than a little shocked at what just happened. Will hovered over Tarakudo in an almost menacing fashion as she cracked her magically enhanced knuckles. What were you saying about kid gloves, Tarakudo? Meanwhile, perhaps the only remaining 2 guards in the prison, stood guard over the central lever that opened and closed all the cell doors, thought Kavagor. They heard the entire prison shake and looked more than a little nervous. Think we should go? Sounds pretty intense out there. One guard questioned. How? There's literally no way out of this dump. The second one exclaimed before rubbing his hand down his face in emotional exhaustion. I need a better job. Yeah, you do. A female voice said, one they couldn't identify as nobody else appeared to be with them. They looked around in surprise, only for an invisible force to grab them by their helmeted heads and slam them together to knock them out. The assailant revealed to be an invisible viper, who turned back to normal as she smirked over them. Might wanna mull it over while you're out. she told them with a smirk as Jackie, Alborn, and Myriadel entered the room, along with the still drugged Blanc. Pretty mountain stream, Blanc said in a daze. This is it. Jackie found the lever and grabbed it. Once all the cells are open, tell every person to meet at the uppermost floor of the cell block, that's where the portal will be. Both Myriadel and Alborn nodded as Jackie pulled the lever, triggering the chain reaction in Cavigor's systems that would open all the cells. Back outside, Will, Caleb, Cornelia, Uncle, and Jade looked around to see the cells open, and all the prisoners walk out in confusion, some looking like they haven't been fed properly in a very long time, all wondering what was going on. The cells are open, Caleb called out. Then it's time to end this. Will stated. Cornelia, get the others above us. We'll finish things here. Got it. The blonde nodded before flying straight up. You aren't going anywhere. Tarakudo tried to pursue her, only for a lasso of shadow magic to wrap around him and halt his advance. Neither are you. Jade pulled down on the lasso to slam Tarakudo hard onto a bridge. Before he even had the chance to recover, Will flew out to dish a series of punches and chops across his face, dealing significant damage thanks to the good magic that surged with them. After the seventh punch, she dealt an uppercut to send him flying before shooting up herself to meet him, cupped her hands together, and slammed them down to knock him ABCK down again. He didn't even have time to register the next attack as Caleb already rushed him to slice his katana across his face, cutting him across the eyes in the process. Ah, gah, Tarakudo cried out in pain before he vanished in a wave of green energy. Did that do it? Caleb asked. Is he beaten? No, Uncle said as he walked forward. These spells and onions only serve to repel the Oni. He will recover and return. We must research way to truly defeat Tarakudo. Right, but let's get all these people to safety first. Will said as she flew toward the uppermost floor of the cell block, took out the heart of Kandrakar and used its power to open a portal. Back in the armory, most of the soldiers had been defeated, all save for about 5, along with Cedric, Wong, and Hak Fu, all of whom were literally backed into a corner as Irma, Toru, Heilin, El Toro, Terani, Alchemy, Paco, Super Moose, and Scruffy, still in his Cerberus form, loomed over them. You want some more? Huh, you want some more? Super Moose challenged as the other heroes were more than ready to continue the fight. While the soldiers looked more than a little frightened, Cedric, Wong, and even Hak Fu practically snarled at their foes. We are not beaten, Cedric hissed. We will fight to the last. Suddenly the entire ground exploded upward, sending the villains flying in all directions. Even Hak Fu landed on a downed spear that was pointed up, causing him to poof, while everyone else was knocked out as Cornelia flew out of the hole. Nice timing, Alchemy commented. Thanks, Cornelia smirked. Come on, we're getting out of here. Let's go, the portal is only 1 floor up, we're almost there. Jackie helped an injured man to his feet as Alborn and Myriadel all did the same, along with Viper who was helping an elderly woman. Hang in there, we're almost out. She assisted. Even Will, Uncle, Jade, and Caleb all spread out to help the people. The rest of the Guardians even flew down, along with Alchemy and Super Moose, to guide any stragglers toward the portal as well. It didn't take long for all the prisoners to make it through the portal, even the one that tried to escape in the beginning. Soon, all of the Guardians, the J-Team, and their allies were at the portal as Paco arrived in a blur of super speed. All of the cells are empty. The people are safe, Paco reported. Good work, Paco. El Toro nodded. Then it is time for us to take our leave as well. Not just yet, Will said as she looked out toward the prison. All these cells are empty now, but Phobos could fill them back up in just a few days. Best to make sure that doesn't happen ever again. Yeah, let's tear this place down to the ground. Jade agreed before glancing toward her uncle for final approval. Jackie gave a small sigh. Normally, I would not approve of something like this. But you are right. Phobos could imprison many more innocent people here, we need to see to it that it never happens again. Do what you will. You heard the man, let's tear this place down. Irma stated as all 6 guardians flew around, even Alchemy joined in as she shot blasts from the dragon talisman into multiple cells to destroy them. Terani did the same with a series of fireballs in the cells below. Toru even lent Will the pig talisman to blast heat beam eyes into many more cells, causing them to collapse inward. Jade, Irma, Cornelia, and Hei Lin each flew down toward the ground, each one of them at a separate corner where several support pillars were built into the walls. Jade materialized a shadow katana in her hands and began to cut down at her pillar. Irma fired a stream of water so condensed that it cut through the stone of her pillar as well. Hei Lin created a pair of air discs for a similar effect of cutting through the third pillar, while Cornelia channeled her earth powers into the last one to weaken the foundation, causing it to collapse. Soon, all four pillars gave way and fell apart, causing many of the floors, bridges, and walls around all the cells, intact and destroyed alike, all began to collapse. As the entire cell block was on the verge of annihilation, Viper, El Toro, Caleb, Paco, Super Moose, and Scruffy were the first to enter the portal, followed by Toru and Uncle, though Jackie waited for the girls to all fly back up as they entered the portal one last time. It would close behind them as the rest of the cell block, and most the prison finally collapsed in on itself. While the outside of Cavagur appeared to remain intact, the inwards of the prison were nothing more than a massive pile of rubble now. Infinite City. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Nukuru, Himen Jaaku. Uncle and Toru both chanted as they were near the entrance of the Infinite City, before pointing their respective blowfishes, which shot a beam of green magic toward the entrance, causing it to glow the same color before vanishing. Spell will prevent Tarakudo from entering Infinite City. Uncle said. Which means for the moment, it and all these people are safe from the forces of darkness. Toru said as the rebellion worked to help feed and nurse the escaped prisoners back to health, with the J-Team, the rest of the Chan clan, as well as the Guardians lending a hand as well, with which the horse talisman especially came in handy. No, you're not on a beach, Blunk. Caleb tried to tell the passling, who was still drugged, but the young rebel couldn't stop himself from laughing. Green fishy. Blunk said in a daze. That's your foot. Hey, can I get the horse talisman over here? Caleb called out. Meanwhile, Jackie and the girls were talking with Alborn and Myriadel as the Meridian couple extended their most sincere thanks to them. We can't thank you enough. Alborn said. You hardly know us, and you went to all this trouble. You don't have to thank us. Jackie assured. It was the right thing to do. And you raised our best friend, we owed you guys. Cornelia added. And we'll make sure to get Elion back. Alchemy stated. You guys are going to see her again, we promise. Will assured. Please, don't let anything happen to our little girl. Myriadel said. We won't. Jade stated with a nod. Girls, listen. Jackie got all their attention as he smiled toward them. I just wanted to say, that you have all grown so much in such a short time, and I'm proud of each and every one of you. Ah, we love you too, Uncle Jackie. Hei Lin was the first to hug him, which he was happy to return. Come on, everyone get in on this. Irma stated as she, Will, Terani, Cornelia, Jade, and even Alchemy joined in giving Jackie a massive group hug. Well, someone's popular with the ladies. Viper approached with a teasing smirk before giving him a kiss on the cheek, causing him to blush with a smile, followed by teasing giggles and ahs from the other girls as they broke off from the hug. And I wanted to thank you all as well for your help today. Jackie said to not only Viper, but also El Toro and Paco who joined in. Of course, my friend. We are always happy to help. El Toro said as he shook Jackie's hand. Yeah, you guys really are something else. Caleb said to them. I'm hoping the J-Team can provide more aid to the rebellion in the future, maybe even in the final battle against Phobos and his forces. El Toro and Viper shared expressions before smiling toward the young rebel leader. We would be honored, they said simultaneously. Well Jade, El Toro may be the best, Paco began with a smirk. And Jackie may be better, Jade continued with their usual shtick with a smirk of her own. But J-Witch and the J-Team are the greatest. They said in unison before exchanging a high five. Phobos was livid. No, that wasn't even coming close to describing the raw fury that was building inside him as Cedric and Wong kneeled before him as they gave their report of what just happened at Cavagor. So, not only have the Guardians, Chan, and their allies liberated every prisoner from Cavagor, but you don't even know how they entered the prison in the first place. He practically screamed at them in rage. Unfortunately, no. Wong reported. The damage to Cavagor was substantial, the prison has been almost completely destroyed. Any evidence that we could find to know how they entered is buried with the rubble. Cedric added. We will be unable to repair the prison before the coronation. Phobos was tempted to lash out at both of them. He had just lost his most secure prison in all of Meridian. News of this will spread like wildfire, which will cause the rebel forces to attack much more boldly. Once again, the Guardians and Chan have proven to be the most painful thorn in his side imaginable. However, he was forced to quell his rage as he heard the throne doors open, prompting him to throw up the illusion once again as his sister entered the throne, along with the enforcers acting as her dutiful guards. You're back, Elion said excitedly upon seeing Daolon Wong and Cedric. Where are my parents? Cedric tried to put on a face of remorse. I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, we were ambushed on our return. The rebels took your parents. Elion gasped in shock. What will they do to them? I don't believe they will do any harm to them, I assure you, your majesty. Wong spoke to her. They know you have a close bond with your parents and will likely use them as hostages or bargaining chips to get to you. I realize this sounds bad, but they have more reason to keep your parents alive. Though that was good to know, Elion was beyond distraught at the idea of the man and woman who raised her being used as hostages. Hey, don't worry kiddo. Ratso was the first to try and comfort her. We'll get your parents back. Yeah, nothing will happen to them, we promise. Chow also said. Indeed. Phobos added as he stepped down to meet his sister. I promise you, Elion. We will retrieve your parents, and those who took them, will pay dearly. In the meantime, Finn put his hand on Elion's shoulder protectively. We'll make sure nothing happens to you, little E. Nothing at all. He gave a somewhat subtle glare in Phobos' direction at that last comment, causing the Dark Prince to discreetly narrow his eyes in return. A challenge of leadership. Using an electric drill, Caleb was easily able to break the lock to the granary of Phobos' castle where he, Aldarn, and two other rebels entered as quietly as possible. Once inside, they could see barrels upon barrels and bags upon bags of grain hand-grown by Meridian's people. Our grain, Aldarn looked with anger in his eyes. When I think how hard our people worked to grow this. Come on, Caleb urged. Getting caught in here is good for a lifetime in Phobos dungeons. Nah. The group turned around in surprise to see the captain of the guard, along with several other guards enter the granary. That's only if you're lucky. Realizing they were cornered, Caleb drew his katana while his fellow rebels pulled out their respective weapons as the guards charged forward, beginning a clash of blades and flurries of punches and kicks. Despite being outnumbered, Caleb's group was able to put up a good enough fight, but they would soon be overwhelmed. Caleb found himself cornered near several bags of grain with the lamp in one hand, and katana in the other. Getting an idea, Caleb smashed the lamp against the wall before letting the oil drip over his sword. He then clashed his blade against the axe of one guard, creating a spark which ignited Caleb's katana, startling he guard and allowing Caleb to cut down the guard's weapon. Get back. He swung his flaming katana around to keep the other guards at bay. At the same time, Aldarn directly challenged the captain as he brought out a staff to block the sword strike. The captain kicked Aldarn back against the wall before slicing his sword at him. Fortunately, Aldarn ducked underneath the slice. Unfortunately, this cut the rope that kept a large crate of grain suspended in the air, causing it to open up and pour gallons of grain all over Aldarn and the captain, drawing Caleb's attention. Aldarn. Caleb was about to help his friend, but soon looked to see the other two rebels pinned to the ground and being subdued while the rest of the guards made a move to surround Caleb, the flames in his katana already dying down. Go, Caleb, run, Aldarn told him. Realizing he had no choice, Caleb turned around and ran out of the granary as fast as he could. Earth, Terrani's house. Most of the girls were gathered in the kitchen with a large assortment of eggs, milk, sugar, powder, chocolate chips, dough, and other baking goods were gathered over the kitchen counter as the girls worked on the preparation. Hey, thanks again for helping me out with the art club, bake sale. Cornelia thanked the girls. No problem. What are best friends for? Alchemy smiled. It'll be fun. Hey Lin Bean. We only need to make 12 sheet cakes, 20 pies, 200 brownies, and 400 cookies. Really? Is that all? Jade joked. Why so much? Irma asked with a slight laugh herself. If we have to do it anyway for school, we might as well make a little extra and give it to the rebels. Will suggested. I get to lick the spoon. Lin exclaimed, causing all the girls to look at her questionably. I'm a very light slobberer. Tarani then walked in and appeared to be over the phone with her parents. Number mom, I'll be fine. The girls are sleeping over. Bye. She hung up, only for a door under the sink to open and reveal Blanc hanging out in the garbage bin, but she looked unimpressed as she closed the door before turning back to her friends. My parents' conference is being held over another day, they won't be back tonight. That caused all the girls to smile at each other knowingly and excitedly. You know what that means? Irma said. You bet. Will took out the heart of Kandrakar. Ah yeah. Jade smirked. Uncle's rare finds. Jackie and Toru both looked over a world map that was laid out on the front desk of the shop, with 7 red X's at certain locations across the world. So, the first mask was in Hong Kong, the second in Tokyo, and the third was here in Heatherfield. But the Oni were defeated thousands of years ago, so it's safe to say that most of these masks never remained in the same location during that time. Toru replied. Which would explain why the 7th one was located at an auction. Jackie deduced. I am just glad that nobody has worn these masks until now. Why are you dilly-dallying? Uncle called out to them as he and Yan Lin at a table with the Hanafuda cards. Help Uncle and Yan Lin find remaining masks. But that is what we are trying to do, Uncle. Jackie told him as Uncle walked over to cast a glance at the map they were working with. If we can establish a pattern based on the locations of the other Oni masks we've found, perhaps we can find the last 2 before, ow. Toru felt his forehead where Uncle delivered his titular dope slap. Masks can only be found by Hanafuda cards. Uncle chastised them both before speaking to his apprentice directly. You are Japanese expert, Toru. The Hanafuda cards were your idea. Yes, sensei. Toru nodded. You two have a good idea. Yan Lin told them. But as Toru suggested, several of these masks were moved from their original hiding spots over the years for a number of reasons. So, I highly doubt there is a pattern that can help us locate the next 2. Which means the Hanafuda cards really are our only option. Jackie said. However, their conversation came to a halt as the front door suddenly opened and Caleb stumbled into the store. His breath was ragged, which indicated he ran a considerable distance to get here. Caleb. Jackie was the first to move over to him with Uncle, Toru, and Yan Lin following. I need your help. Meridian, Phobos Castle. The prince sat on a stone bench in his courtyard, a rose in his hand as the captain of the guard and an escort party brought in the recently captured Aldarn and 2 other rebels. Here are the thieves we caught in the granary. The captain reported before looking nervous. I'm afraid, their leader, escaped. He was already sweating, expecting a brutal tongue lashing, followed by a severe punishment. But surprisingly, neither came as Phobos appeared to take the news quite well. Oh well, I suppose it couldn't have been helped. Do your worst. Aldarn exclaimed defiantly to the Dark Prince. We're not afraid. That grain belongs to the people. The princess, Elion, will hear your complaints. Phobos stood up from his seat. I leave them in your care, my dear sister. He stepped aside to reveal Elion, with the Dark Kai enforcers standing as her bodyguards. It's a trick, keep your guard up. Aldarn told his fellow rebels as Phobos walked away and Elion approached them. Ooh, looks like somebody got busted. Ratso teased. Guys, please let me handle this. Elion told the trio. Sure thing, little E. Finn said as he, Ratso, and Chow backed away slightly, but still maintained a close eye on Elion in case the rebels were to try anything. Now what's wrong with this picture? Elion asked. You guys look way too nice to be thieves. We're no thieves. Aldarn stated. Well, you were caught stealing. Elion replied. That grain is being stored for everyone. It's not fair for your small group too. We are no small group. Aldarn interrupted. We represent all Meridianites, suffering under the tyrant Phobos. Ah, here we go again. Elion looked more than a little annoyed. I keep hearing the same thing about my brother being some kind of evil emperor, like he's Darth Sidious or something. Yeah, Wong's more like Sidious. Chow commented. I mean, they're both old and wrinkly. Yeah, I think Phobos kinda looks more like a Dracula. Ratso said, discussing with his friends. I mean, his castle looks the part. Finn chuckled. But Dracula ain't a kid, I think he's more like a Loki kinda deal. Guys, please. I'm trying to work here. Elion told the trio, who winced apologetically. Sorry kiddo, do your thing. Chow apologized. Yeah, just pretend we're not even here. Ratso added. Thanks, Elion said before turning back to Aldarn's group. Tell, why is it everyone in your little rebellion thinks my brother is a tyrant? Because he has enslaved all of Meridian for more than a decade. Aldarn exclaimed. He even went so far as to murder his own parents. Your parents? Oh yeah, where's your proof? Elion argued, catching Aldarn off guard. Proof? I'm not 100% sure how the justice system works here in Meridian, but where I'm from, it's usually innocent till proven guilty. Elion explained with a glare. You say my brother murdered our parents, well what evidence do you have to prove this? Did any of you see what happened? Any witnesses? Do you know how he did it? When exactly he did it? Where's the evidence? Evidence. Aldarn and his friends looked to each other in confusion. That's what I thought. Elion shook her head. Someone else killed my parents and tried to set my brother up for it. I get how Meridian is supposed to be ruled by queens, but I was only a baby, and someone had already took me to Earth when all that stuff went down. Phobos was the only member of the royal family left, so somebody had to take charge and keep Meridian from falling into chaos. Well, all you people heard are rumors and lies told by someone else, but apparently it was enough to start a freaking war. Do you have any idea how much damage that war has caused this kingdom? We're not the ones trying to destroy Meridian. We're trying to save it. Aldarn argued. Even if Phobos is innocent in his parents' murder, that doesn't excuse what he's been doing. Please, just hear me out. Elion protested. We don't have to keep fighting anymore. My powers are not only growing, I've also got more control over them. And Phobos is getting everything ready for my coronation, to make me a proper queen, isn't that what you want? As Elion spoke however, a strong and invisible magic aura manifested around her and the rebels. Though it did not affect the Dark Kai enforcers, they noticed something off with Elion. I can use my power to help rebuild the damage, we can end this war right here and now, and make Meridian into a new and peaceful place. Together, we can make Meridian a land of plenty. That would be wonderful, Aldarn said in a dazed tone of voice before his senses came to him. But Phobos will never allow it. Elion sighed before speaking in a more aggressive tone, the aura around her still present. Someone won't allow it, but it's not my brother. There is somebody out there, maybe someone in the rebellion pulling the strings, the one who really killed my parents. The same one who brainwashed my friends, giving them powers but making them into their own personal puppets. That person in the shadows is the real reason this war still goes on, and why I've been forced to fight my own friends. Well, I've had enough. Let's end this madness, now. This seemed enough to convince Aldarn and the other two rebels to bow down to her. We're so lucky Phobos found you, princess. Aldarn said. Let me show you something I've learned how to do. Hold out your hand. Elion said. Aldarn did as instructed as Elion placed some grain into his palm before casting a wave of magic that caused the grain to grow into fresh barley, much to Aldarn's amazement. You're a good soul, I can see that. I'm sure there are plenty of good people in the rebellion too, they've just been fed lies. So how about this? I'll talk to my brother about singing a peace treaty between the rebels and the throne. We'll not only end this war, but maybe even catch the one who really killed my parents and see to it they're brought to justice. As she continued to talk with them, the Dark Kai enforcers huddled together to speak amongst themselves. Hey, is it just me, or is something really weird going on with Elion? Ratso asked. It's not just you, this weird presence around her, Chow found it hard to describe. It's almost like she pulled a Jedi mind trick on them. I don't think she even knows what she's doing. Finn added. Just what kind of lessons are the big guys teaching her anyway? Hey guys. Elion got their attention. Find a cart and some horses, or whatever people in Meridian use to pull them. Sure, but why? Chow asked. So, they can go back to the granary and help themselves to as much as they can carry. Elion said with a smile. Meanwhile, inside the castle, Phobos overlooked the castle town below his fortress as Cedric and Daolon Wong approached from behind. My prince, do you know what your sister is doing right this minute? Cedric asked. Yes, proposing a peace treaty with the rebellion. Phobos answered, keeping his back turned to them. And what plan do you have for that? Daolon Wong asked as well. What makes you think there's a plan? Phobos responded, causing the two to look in confusion. I'm afraid I do not quite understand, my lord. Wang said. Surely you will not allow this. Why not? Are you actually considering signing a treaty? Cedric questioned. Yes, I am. Phobos confirmed, much to their shock as he kept his gaze on his kingdom. What? Why would you allow something like that? Wang also questioned. I cannot see a reason for allowing something as worthless as a peace treaty. Oh, no. Phobos turned to them with a hardened glare. What about the war that has been raging non-stop for more than a decade? We've been locked in a stalemate with the rebellion since their inception with no end in sight. And ever since the Guardians and that meddlesome Jackie Chan have joined the fight, we've suffered loss after loss. The Oni masks can easily tip the scales in our favor. Wang tried to protest. And how many of those masks do we currently have? Phobos replied. None. And even when someone from our side does acquire a mask, it is removed swiftly enough before we can even use it properly. Even with only 2 masks still in play, this hunt for them has more than exhausted our resources, which has only further pushed the rebellion into attacking more. So, you would instead forsake all we've accomplished. Cedric glared. Once you've harnessed your sister's power, you can easily crush the rebellion. And what's to stop our enemies from taking Elion and turn her against us? Phobos questioned. We've tried to corrupt their allies in the past, but it's never worked. Nothing we've done has ever proven to be a success. He appeared to calm down for a moment. Tell me, do either of you know what the definition of insanity is? It is to do the same thing repeatedly and expect a different result each time, and that is precisely what we've been doing. Look at the results, it's been one defeat after another. Well, I will not allow myself to be dragged down kicking and screaming, nor will I allow this prolonged war to destroy Meridian. I would very much prefer to rule over a living realm, not whatever's left of a battlefield. Wang practically growled. Forgive my prince, but it would seem that your time spent around your sister has made you soft. Phobos narrowed his eyes dangerously at the dark wizard. Be careful, Daolan Wang. If you recall what you told me shortly after Raithor's false betrayal, you said, I can never really trust anyone. Don't give me a reason I can't take that toward you, or I will see to it you suffer the same fate. Phobos' warning caused Wang to glare further as the prince turned toward the shapeshifter. Same to you as well, Cedric. I do not have to like it, but if it means finally ending this conflict, which has been nothing more than a perpetual waste of time, then so be it. But my prince, Cedric tried. That is final. Phobos exclaimed. I will hear no further word of this. Leave me. As you wish. Cedric hissed with a glare as he and Wang left the balcony, while Phobos resumed his gaze toward the kingdom. Both the dark wizard and shapeshifter scowled as they traversed the empty hallways of the palace. I thought he was a fool before, but he's letting his attachment to his sister blind him. Cedric commented. He may very well just concede the throne to her instead of taking her powers like he originally planned. Wang also stated. Throwing away everything we've done. You would think that with his kingdom locked in war, becoming a pariah to his people, all that would darken his heart. But it seems he's still soft on the inside. A small half-smirk fell on Cedric's face. This may be the first time that we've ever agreed on something. You were right, even before he had something of a soft spot for that fool Raithor. When he was cast into the abyss, I would have assumed that last of his morality would have been cast aside as well. But it seems not. Then perhaps we should do something about that, wouldn't you agree? A third voice spoke up as a familiar face materialized from the wall next to them before the king of the Shotokan revealed himself. Tarakudo. Wang exclaimed as he and Cedric readied themselves for a possible fight. Calm down, I'm not here to fight. Tarakudo said. To the contrary, I wish to help you. Help us? Cedric questioned skeptically. I find that difficult to believe since you seem to be in the favor of that fool of a prince. Phobos is young and naive, but he also has great potential for darkness. Tarakudo explained. But as you said, his soft spot for his younger sister is preventing him from reaching said potential. Obviously, we can't simply get rid of her, and both of them are intent on letting this peace treaty continue, but that's not to say we can't turn it to our advantage. And how can we trust that you are not attempting to deceive us? Wang questioned. As the Lord of all Oni and proud agent for the forces of darkness, peace treaties aren't really my thing. Tarakudo replied. So obviously I'm against it. But also, do you know how it is I was able to command my Oni generals? It was because we had a mutual respect with one another. Obviously, if they got out of line, I would put them back in their place. But we worked together and saw that our forces were strongest by fighting as one. It's the very same reason Mr. Chan and those young ladies continue to succeed, because they are able to work as a team. So, wouldn't it make sense for us to follow their example? You two have great potential on your own, yes. But together, Daolan Wang's vast knowledge of magic, Cedric's raw strength and power, and my cunning, we could be unstoppable. But in order for that to work, we must put our differences aside. And seeing how we have common ground now with this peace treaty, I'd say that's a good place to start. Cedric and Wang cast a glance at one another, both seeing the logic in the Oni King's reasoning. He does make a good point. Cedric admitted. Perhaps there is more we can accomplish together than apart. So first, let us see how we can turn this treaty to our advantage. Wang said with a small smirk before looking toward the floating demon head. I trust you have a plan in mind, Lord Tarakudo. Indeed. Tarakudo smirked evilly as he leaned closer to his cohorts and began to whisper the details of his agenda. Earth, Terrani's residence. All the girls, minus alchemy of course, were in their respective guardian forms as they have used their magic to prepare more than half the baked goods already. As they worked, Blanc helped himself to the stuff that fell on the floor. Add 4 cups water, we'll read the recipe aloud. No problem. Irma pointed her fingers downward to pour into the bowl the necessary amount of water. Mix in large container, we'll continue to read. Sugar and wheat are earth products, so I don't think we need the container. Cornelia lifted the baking substance from the bowl and used her control over the earthly ingredients to properly mix it together in the form of cookie dough. And stir until well mixed. Will instructed, prompting Lin to use her control over the air to not only mix it, but also add a bit of extra fluff to the dough. Now for some cool shapes. Jade produced a dual set of knives in her hands made of shadow magic before slicing at the dough ninja style. By the time it was done, at least 24 cookies were on a baking sheet and in the shapes of 5 pointed stars, crescent moons, and even shurikens. Nice. Alchemy commented. You'd guys make a killer baking show. Will chuckled before reading the final part of the recipe. Bake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. How about 7,000 degrees for 1 minute? Terrani joked as she briefly produced a flame in her hand. Just kidding. This still resulted in everyone else laughing until there was a knock on the back door that led into the kitchen. Girls, I am sorry to bug you, but Jackie began but was surprised to see them all in their guardian forms. We're only baking, Jackie, Jade quickly said, thinking they were in trouble. Not causing any mischief, just making cookies and stuff. Jackie briefly sighed before getting back to the situation at hand. That's fine, but we have a problem. He stepped aside as Toru helped Caleb enter the kitchen with Uncle and Yan Lin right behind them. Caleb, Cornelia exclaimed upon seeing the exhausted and distraught look on his face. What happened? Alchemy asked. A raid that went wrong. Caleb gave a brief explanation. We broke into the castle for some grain. Aldarn and 2 others were captured. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go kick some evil butt. Jade stated. But, we still got half the stuff to bake. Terrani pointed out to several of their unfinished recipes. All of this is gonna be ruined. Lin spotted Blanc liking a spoon that fell on the floor. Blanc, you ever cook anything? Yes. Blanc nodded. Blanc, clever. You're gonna leave the walking stomach in charge of food? Cornelia questioned. I'll stay behind and help finish all of this. Toru offered. I have plenty of experience with baking. It's true. Toru bakes some mean brownies. Jade confirmed as she nudged his side, causing him to blush. I may as well stay and help out too. Yan Lin offered. Thanks guys. Will smiled. What are we waiting for? Uncle exclaimed. We must get to Meridian now. Go. Uncle began to push the entire group outside. Okay, we're going. Irma exclaimed as they were pushed out the door. But Irma stuck her head back inside. Make sure Blanc doesn't eat any of the recipes. Or the book. She was pulled back outside by the ear by Uncle. Ow. Caleb began leading the group toward the portal he used to cross between the realms, though he kept some distance away from everyone. Cornelia, however, picked up her pace to get closer and talk to him. What's up, rebel boy? Cornelia asked with concern. You're brooding even more than usual. It's all my fault. Caleb replied. I not only led them into a potential ambush, I left them behind. What kind of leader am I? Caleb, look, maybe it didn't go exactly the way you planned, but when do things ever go according to plan for us? Cornelia told him before putting a hand on his shoulder to get his attention. Hey, listen to me. Speaking as someone who's made more than her fair share of mistakes, mopping around isn't gonna fix things. Focus on what you can do right now, instead of how you messed up. Oh, and for the record, you're a wonderful leader. You don't know how wonderful you are. Caleb stopped walking for a moment and turned around to take Cornelia's hand. He didn't say a thank you or anything to show that he appreciated her advice, but he didn't have to. She knew he did. However, their moment was interrupted by a dope slap to both of their heads. Ow, ow, no time to flirt. We must get to Meridian now. You wish to save rebels? Yes. Then we go to Meridian and you do not waste time. Uncle chastised, much to their annoyance. Thanks a lot, Uncle Wet Blanket. Cornelia muttered as Caleb continued to lead the group. Soon, Caleb had led the group to what appeared to be an abandoned refinery near an old well. Jackie only then noticed the large bags that Lynn, Irma, and Alchemy were carrying. Girls, what is that? Jackie asked. Extra cookies and stuff for the rebels. Lynn answered. Yeah, figure the guys could use something sweet. Alchemy added, causing Jackie to smile. Well, that is very thoughtful of you. He nodded with approval. So, where's the portal? Terani asked. Right down there. Caleb pointed to the old well. The group looked down and saw all the moldy wells, spider webs, and other stuff that they didn't even want to know what it was. No. Jade backed away instantly. Besides, we can just open up a portal since the heart absorbed the seal of Phobos. True, but we should still close this portal just in case. Jackie said. On it. Will held the heart of Kandrakar over the well and used its power to seal the portal down below before pointing the heart away from the well and opened up a new portal for them to use. They wasted no time in jumping in and crossing the veil. Infinite City. After crossing into Meridian, and closing the portal behind them, the group of heroes made their way to the rebellion's underground base as they began to plan their move. Okay, we're going to need some backup and weapons, Caleb began. However, once they rounded the corner, they were surprised to see none other than Aldarn waiting for them. Aldarn. Wow, that was quick. Jade commented. Coming from you, that says something. Irma said. Caleb instantly ran toward his friend and placed his hands on his shoulders. You got away. How? The princess freed us. Aldarn revealed, catching the group off guard. Elion. Cornelia uttered as she and Alchemy exchanged surprised glances. Caleb noticed the large supply of grain behind Aldarn. What's all this? The guards just gave it to us. Can you believe it? He replied as Caleb went to inspect it. Uncle, could this be a trap? Jackie asked his uncle, who already took out his blowfish and used it to scan the grain for any signs of magical tampering. I do not sense any dark magic, or any magic. The elderly Kai wizard revealed as he picked up a single grain to observe more closely. The grain is not enchanted, nor do I believe to be poisoned. It's a new beginning for Meridian. Aldarn continued. The princess will be on the throne soon. We have no more reason to fear her brother. Have you lost your senses? Caleb exclaimed, not buying this for a second. You don't see this as a trick. We met with her. Aldarn argued. You have her and Phobos all wrong, Caleb. Everyone has been saying that he murdered his parents, but we've never actually had proof of that. We don't have evidence to confirm it. Look, even if Phobos didn't kill his parents, that doesn't excuse all the crimes we know he's done. Caleb stated. Totally. Cornelia agreed. What about all people that have been enslaved or starving? Or the literal monsters that he's used to attack us and you? Heck, the guy's BFFs with a dark wizard, an evil shapeshifter, and freaking floating demon head. Jade put in. Phobos has crossed many lines and I am also doubtful that he would suddenly be willing to give up his power. Jackie said. He won't stop until all of Meridian is under his heel. Will added. However, Aldarn didn't seem convinced. Look, all of you have done so much for not only the rebellion, but the people who aren't even fighting. He spoke to Jackie, the Guardians, as well as Uncle and Alchemy. But you have no idea how exhausting this all has been. Caleb, this war has been going on since we've been children. Don't you want it to end? Of course, I want it to end. Caleb exclaimed. But only when I know that we have a possible victory in our reach. Phobos has been ruling and enslaving our home for years now. He just suddenly wants to give up. How can you not be suspicious? The princess is back. It's what we've always wanted. We can't ask our people to suffer indefinitely. Aldarn continued. However, as he spoke, Uncle began to look toward him with a curious expression, as if he was sensing something amiss with him. We're signing a peace treaty today. You don't have the authority to do that. Caleb told him as the two friends narrowed their eyes at each other, but Aldarn refused to back down. The signing ceremony is at midday at the Hugun nesting grounds. Aldarn said. All of us will be there. If you have a problem with me signing it and finally putting an end to the war, then I challenge you for leadership of the rebellion. He declared, catching everyone, especially Caleb, off guard. All except Uncle, who continued to observe Aldarn with a serious expression. Aldarn didn't even give the heroes a chance to argue as he stormed away. With nothing else to do, the group decided to scout the area where the supposed signing of the peace treaty was being held, the Hugun nesting grounds. Does he honestly believe Phobos would just give up his plans because of some peace treaty? Caleb exclaimed. Aldarn's brainwashed dude. Irma told him. Tarakudo or Wong probably got to him. No. Uncle shook his head. Aldarn has been influenced by Elion. How do you know? Cornelia questioned. I could sense magic from Aldarn. Uncle revealed. But it was not dark magic. And the only one with Phobos who doesn't possess dark magic, Jackie began. Is Elion. Alchemy finished as she looked down with worry. We might not know what all her powers are, but it does sound like she was the one who hypnotized him. Terani seemed to understand. She probably doesn't even know what she did. Cornelia quickly said in Elion's defense. Caleb sighed. I hate to admit it, but the Hugun nesting grounds are a perfect place for a treaty signing. He said as they saw a pair of Huguns crossing the valley. So, these are Huguns, huh? Irma asked. Kinda look like alien ostriches. Jade commented. They're the peace bird of Meridian. Grandma told me. Hey, Lynn said. Aren't they cute? She asked, causing Jade and Irma to lower their eyelids at her. Their nesting grounds have a clear view in all directions, nowhere to hide and ambush us. Caleb explained. Just a lot of big blue eggs. Well, maybe then it's legit. Alchemy suggested. I mean, we did learn that Phobos does care about Elion in a way, maybe she changed his mind. Even if it were true, and Phobos decided to step down, I am doubtful that everyone on his side would be so quick to agree. Jackie said. We know that Daolon Wong is planning to stab him in the back, and I don't think the words, peace treaty, were in Tarakudo's vocabulary. Will said. So, either Phobos has got the whole thing rigged, or one of the other bad guys is setting up a trap. Jade said. Yeah, I can definitely see a trap. It doesn't matter, I have to battle my best friend over leadership of the rebellion. Caleb stated with regret, not looking forward to fighting his friend. How exactly does this challenge work? Terani asked. Well, it starts as foot race, Caleb began. We both have to cross rough terrain, scale cliffs, get through beast-filled swamps, and it ends with hand-to-hand combat. Yesh, Hunger Games, much. Jade winced. Can't the challenge just be rock paper scissors or something? Challenge not important. Uncle stated. Peace treaty signing is. Either Phobos, Tarakudo, or Daolon Wong have undoubtedly placed a trap. We must discover the nature of trap before signing of treaty. Earth. Now add milk and sugar and stir until thoroughly mixed. Toru instructed as Blunk stirred the bowl. The oven timer went off and Yan Lin pulled out a batch of cookies. Alright, this is looking good so far. Blunk then decided to taste test a cookie. Boring. Make Blunk recipe. Blunk, humans don't digest everything a pasling can. Yan Lin said. But you're not wrong. This is a good spread, but I think it could use a little more oomph to it. Toru began to think. My mommy did teach me how to make special kinds of Japanese desserts, like mochi and even taiyaki. Oh really? Yan Lin smirked. I know my way around dragon's beard candy. So, what do you say we give this spread a little more culture? Sounds like a plan to me. Toru agreed as even Blanc laughed with excitement. Meridian. The girls, Jackie, Uncle, and various members of the rebellion, including W.I.T.C.H and Julian, all gathered just outside a forest as the challenge between Caleb and Aldarn was about to begin. Good luck, Caleb. Julian told his son. I'll be fine, Dad. The first one back to the arena turns over the hourglass. W.I.T.C.H explained the challenge to Caleb and Aldarn. If the second man arrives before the sand runs out, you battle. This caused everyone to look nervous, especially Cornelia. Are you sure you want to do this? W.I.T.C.H asked the two, but it seemed neither were willing to back down, though Caleb held a great deal of reluctance. Very well. Begin. With that, both Caleb and Aldarn began their race through the forest. He'll be okay, right? Cornelia asked. Jade gave her titular scoff. The guys got this, don't worry. She said in assurance. No sense in waiting here, worrying. Will said. Let's get back to the treaty site. Agreed. Jackie nodded. We need to find out just what kind of trap has been laid. Phobos Castle. Cedric and Daolon Wong both met in secret in the dungeons of the castle, in a secluded spot where no guards could hear them. Are you certain we are alone? Cedric asked. I have used my magic to scry the area, no one will bother us here. Wong confirmed. Good. Cedric nodded. You can come out now, Tarakudo. The Oni King manifested himself from the walls to appear before the group. So, I trust everything has been arranged. Indeed. Wong replied. Phobos and Elion believe the ceremony will take place in the castle grounds. However, we've seen to it the rebellion believes the signing will take place in a different location. When the rebels don't arrive, both the prince and princess will think they've gone back on their word. Cedric added. Which will only push Phobos to carry out his initial plan. If our cards are played right, we may even rid ourselves of the rebellion, or at least a large majority of those fools. Thus, removing a rather annoying thorn from our side. Wong finished. How devious. How clever. Tarakudo smiled evilly. See, this is what happens when we all play nice and work together. You can actually get something done. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to keep an eye on the ceremony, just in case any interlopers try anything. He then vanished into thin air, leaving the two backstabbers alone. He does bear a good point. Cedric commented. Perhaps working together, we can do much more than we could ever do apart. Maybe we can. Daolon Wong seemed to agree. Then let us shake upon it. He offered his hand. To our alliance. To our alliance. Cedric accepted as they shook hands and looked at each other with forced smiles. He is nothing but a conniving snake, quite literally. He can't truly be trusted. Wong thought to himself. Look at that senile old fool. His over-reliance on magic has made him nothing more than a toothpick for me to snap. Cedric thought to himself in a similar manner. Once the coronation is complete, and the power of the heart of Meridian flows through my veins, Wong thought. He will be the first to meet his end by my newfound strength. Cedric finished his own train of thought. However, they only both just noticed that they continued to shake the other's hand for quite some time, causing them to chuckle awkwardly. Jackie, Uncle, and the girls all arrived at the signing ceremony, which appeared to be in the form of a large tent over a fancy table, in the middle of an empty field filled with Hugun eggs. I don't see any traps. Hey Lin looked around. Do not be fooled. Uncle said. Not everything is what it seems. Well, unless they got any invisibility powers or something, they can't catch us by surprise. Terani pointed out. We'd see them coming for miles. Tarakudo literally pops up wherever he wants. Jade said. But he knows he can't take on the entire rebellion by himself, especially since we all know his weakness. Will said. And nobody has an Oni mask, so now Shadow can ambush either. There has to be something here that we simply cannot see. Jackie said. Look all around, call out if you find anything suspicious. Meanwhile, the race between Caleb and Aldarn was well underway. They've already cleared most of the rough terrain and had now begun to scale up the cliffs of the gorge with only their bare hands. The climb was nothing short of arduous, the cliff was steep, the rocks were hard and were already causing their hands to blister and bleed, and the wind made it difficult to maintain a solid grip. Fortunately, neither of them fell as Caleb appeared to be in the lead. We don't have to do this. Caleb tried to plea. I was hoping the exercise would clear your head. I don't want to battle you. You're my best friend. This is for the good of all Meridian. Aldarn exclaimed, still under the effects of Elion's spell, as he continued to climb. Seeing he had no choice but to push forward, Caleb continued to climb. Soon, he made it to the top, but he didn't have time to rest as he got on his feet and ran into the swamps. Aldarn soon got to the top as well and ran into the swamp after him. Caleb soon ran toward a large tree and stopped for a brief moment to catch his breath before running toward the right side of the tree. A few seconds later, and Aldarn had ran clear past the tree, taking a different path. The young rebel leader continued to run through the swamps, ankle deep in water, before finding his path suddenly barred by large carnivorous plants. Though he stopped first, he was faced with the choice of either taking a detour or pushing through. Knowing the former was likely going to take too long, he decided to brace himself as he pushed through the snarling and man-eating plants. Back at the site of the ceremony, despite the hero's search, they didn't appear to find anything out of the ordinary, which only seemed to frustrate them even more. They knew a trap had been set, but no idea how or what it was. Man, what are we missing? If the trap isn't hidden then, what? Will questioned. Perhaps it is hidden, Jackie suggested. Hidden in plain sight. Something right in front of us. The only thing right in front of us are all these eggs. Jade stated, causing her to look as if she had an epiphany as her eyes widened with realization. The eggs. She quickly ran to the closest egg and felt her hand along it. The eggs. What about the eggs? Alchemy asked as Jade felt something wet on the egg's surface. Hey uncle, are Hugun eggs normally wet? Jade asked. No. Uncle shook his head as everyone walked closer to Jade. Huguns are birds, bird eggs are not wet. Yeah, they're like chicken eggs. The shells are dry on the surface. Terani added. Hold on a moment. Jackie walked toward his niece and the egg she was near before running his hand on the surface, feeling the wet substance in his hand. This is not a natural liquid, it's paint. Paint. Like an Easter egg. Hey Lin asked as Irma had a serious expression before pointing her finger forward and spraying water over the nearest egg, wiping away the blue paint to reveal the eggs were a pale gray color. These are not Hugun eggs. Will stated as the group looked with serious expressions, which turned into shock as they saw several of the eggs beginning to crack. Well, something's hatching from them. Cornelia said as the group got ready for a fight. This proved to be the best choice as the eggs all hatched to reveal several dozen large centipede-like insects that bore a resemblance to one they defeated in the past. Iya, larvic hatchlings, Uncle exclaimed. Meanwhile, Caleb had made it to the next portion of the race, to use long stilts to cross a chasm filled with large creatures that seemed like a mix between turtles, sloths, and Komodo dragons. By the time he made it, he noticed a pair of stilts on the other side, indicating that a certain someone had already beaten him here. Well, at least Aldarn made it over safely. Caleb said with relief, now he just had to get across himself. With the stilts tied around his legs, he began to cross the chasm. So far so good. However, the creatures quickly took notice of him and grabbed onto the stilts and began to scale it to devour their next prey. The group circled up as the dozens of larvic hatchlings emerged from their shells. This is the trap, Jackie exclaimed. Duh, Jade pointed out. But these things are way tinier than the last one we squashed. No biggie. Suddenly, she felt a shiver down her spine, causing her confidence to vanish. But we got bigger problems. Got that right. Tarakudo's face emerged from a broken eggshell before hovering in front of the group. Tarakudo, Will exclaimed. Yep. While this was a trap set up for the rebellion, taking you all out of the picture should still be quite satisfying. He commented. Oni King talked too much. Uncle stated. Got that right. We've kicked your non-existent butt before, we can do it again. Irma said. Oh, I'm the least of your worries. Tarakudo said. Pop quiz. What's the first thing a mother larvic does when her babies hatch? As he spoke, a large web began to emerge from the ground around the ceremony site and the babies, with the heroes in the center. Answer. She spins a web to keep all the gathered food trapped inside for her hungry babies to dig in. As he finished, the webbing had formed into a dome that had the heroes completely trapped inside. Well kiddos, time to dig in. He told the baby larvics as he simply hung back and, enjoy the show. Bad day. Jackie muttered as everyone else looked more than a little intimidated. Oh well, the web is shrinking. Time to guardian up, Terani urged. Not needing to be told twice, Will took out the heart of Kandrakar and said the magic words. Guardians unite. One flashy transformation later, Jade, Will, Irma, Terani, Cornelia, and Lin had donned their respective guardian forms of J-Witch, standing alongside Uncle Jackie and Alchemy as the Kai wizard drew a blowfish to fire a series of stun spells at the larvic hatchlings and keep them back. Will took up Alchemy as she and the other guardians flew higher up to get as far as they could from the larvics, which wasn't very far as the web dome continued to shrink. Jackie kicked a flagpole down and grabbed it before spinning it around and lunged it at the larvics that got too close, and Uncle missed with his stun spells. Back, Jackie stated as he tried to beat back as many larvics as he could. Guys. Alchemy gulped. The web dome continued to shrink. Terani, Will tried to instruct. Larvic web doesn't burn, remember. Lin. Will looked toward her instead, prompting Lin to try and blow the web away, but the wind only passed through. Air just goes through it. We're losing ground. Jackie exclaimed as the girls were forced back down toward him and Uncle, quickly losing any room to escape and would be unable to escape, period. Guys, get close, I got an idea. Jade told everyone as she held out her hands, which were already generating large plums of shadow magic. Back with Caleb, he continued to push forward as quickly as he could with the creatures scaling up the stilts, closer to him. But he couldn't push too hard or risk losing balance and falling into the chasm, from which there would be no escaping dinner. One of the creatures got close enough to try and slash at his feet but ended up slashing the rope that kept Caleb's ankle tied to one of the stilts, causing the stilt to tip over along with the creature. Good news, he was safe from that one creature. Bad news, he was losing balance with only one stilt on his left leg. Deciding to use this to advantage, he pushed himself forward, upon seeing he was close enough to the cliff's edge, causing him to tip over and make it to the other side. No time to rest, he quickly untied his left leg and ran as fast as he could to try and catch up with Aldarn. Phobos, Castle. Elion was sitting at her desk, in front of the mirror, making herself look presentable for the approaching ceremony. The Dark Kai enforcers were also present, as was Phobos. I know how I said I wanted a peace treaty, and I do, but, now that it's coming, kinda nervous. Elion began to confess. What are you nervous about? Finn asked. It's just signing a piece of paper. What, you got terrible handwriting? He joked. Oh yeah, my handwriting is just the worst. Elion joked back before getting serious. But, since this will end the war, what do you think the real bad guys are gonna do? The ones who killed our parents. She turned toward Phobos. If you believe they may try to sabotage this event, I do not think they will. It seems too blunt of an approach. Phobos explained. They were through enough to cover their tracks at our parents' murder all those years ago, up to the point that even after all these years, no one has a clue as to his or her identity. So, to try and sabotage an event like this would be the equivalent of announcing their presence. That, actually does make sense. Chow agreed. Yeah, that'd be a real stupid thing to do. Kinda like us. Ratso said, resulting in Finn and Chow elbowing him slightly. Well, what if they try and convince my friends to attack it? Elion asked. I mean, they attacked the castle before. Which is why I've taken the necessary precautions to ensure that even if the Guardians were to attack the ceremony, they would be effectively captured and subdued. Phobos assured. And once that is done, we will take the heart of Kandrakar and finally have the means to free them. Elion sighed in relief upon hearing that. Good. I know they've caused you a lot of trouble, but it's not their fault. Now we might be able to help them. I can't wait to have my friends back. You'll get them back soon, I promise. Phobos said as he placed a hand on her shoulder. Mother and father would be proud of you. She couldn't help but smile emotionally toward him as she put her own hand on his. Thank you. Seeing that smile, caused Phobos to wince on the inside. Though his initial plan was to take her power, wipe her memories and return her to Earth to live a normal life. He believed that if he wielded the same kind of power his mother had, he might have the means to truly bring order to Meridian. But, even after bringing Elion here, everything just seemed to evolve into one big mess as he continued to suffer loss after loss. He had also hoped that having the full power of the Oni masks and the Shotokan, it would end this fighting. However, he has been unable to obtain even a single mask, which has only created more chaos and conflict in his kingdom. But if this ceremony really did take place, and the rebellion signed it, it would also mean the exposure of Phobos' lie. But, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. He knew she would most likely hate him for all of that, but it would also lead to her being put back on the throne. And if she were on the throne, perhaps the war really could end, and peace and order would be restored to Meridian. So maybe that would be the best course of action. He'd probably have to leave Meridian, but if that meant finally bringing order to this world, so be it. Infinite City. The entire rebellion had gathered in the arena that had been built within the underground city. Around the arena were the seats where all the cheering rebels sat, while the arena itself consisted of a four-way stone bridge that stretched from each end with a massive hourglass in the center. Below the bridge appeared to be a bottomless pit. Aldarn was the first to arrive to the arena where Vathek waited by the hourglass. Aldarn made his way toward the hourglass and began to turn it, indicating Caleb didn't have much time to get to the arena and defend his position as leader of the rebellion. Back at the fake ceremony, the web dome had completely collapsed in on itself, with the Larviks seemingly taking their prey underground to be devoured, with the Oni King watching from above. Not as flashy as I had hoped. Tarakudo commented. A rather anticlimactic ending for Mr. Chan and the Guardians. However, his attention was caught by the ground underneath him suddenly exploding outward as a large sphere of shadow magic shot into the air, which quickly dissipated to reveal all the heroes, alive and well. Jade using her shadow magic to create a shield to protect herself as well as her friends and family from the Larviks, and Cornelia using her earth powers to tunnel underground and escape the trap. Then how about we make your beak down, more climatic? Jade exclaimed as she, Cornelia, Heylin, Terani, and Irma readied their respective elemental powers. Even Will had already chanted the anti-Oni Kai spell, causing her hands to glow green like before, while taking a kung fu stance along with Jackie, and Uncle pointing a blowfish forward, keeping alchemy behind him. That was actually kinda clever. Tarakudo observed. But I think I'll pass. He then vanished into thin air. Chicken. Irma called out. No time to dilly-dally. Uncle stated. Peace treaty was trapped. Agreed. We have to tell the rebellion. Let's go. Jackie said as the group left. Infinite City. The sand was just about to run out, with only a few seconds left. However, right before it did, Caleb had arrived just in the nick of time with only a second to spare. He sighed, half in relief, and half in frustration, knowing what was about to happen next. He heard his fellow rebels cheering his name, as well as Aldarn's as he made his way toward the center where Aldarn and Vathek were waiting for him. Do either of you wish to concede? Vathek asked the two, giving them one last chance to back out. Neither of them said anything, showing there was only one option left for them. With a heavy sigh, he handed Aldarn a staff before giving another to Caleb. He stepped aside, allowing the two friends to make eye contact with each other before Aldarn made the first move, rushing Caleb and bringing his staff down toward him. But Caleb quickly leapt over him, right before Aldarn turned around and delivered a strike, which Caleb blocked and parried with his staff. Throughout the entire fight, Caleb simply blocked and parried while Aldarn attacked. Not that Aldarn didn't give him any openings, Caleb had already spotted several that he could have exploited. He knew how his friend fought, he fought with him for years. But he couldn't bring himself to fight back. Aldarn was still his best friend. But that didn't stop Aldarn from attacking, so deciding to disarm him, he brought his foot down to stomp on the thrust of Aldarn's staff before trying to smack the staff out of his hands, but the force of the strike accidentally caused Aldarn to slip and fall off the bridge. Fortunately, Caleb was able to catch him by the wrist. Aldarn, you have to snap out of it now. Caleb pleaded. You're my best friend, my brother. Come on. Whether it was the words finally reaching him, or the magic wearing off, Aldarn's eyes returned to normal as the effects of Elion's spell faded from his head. Seeing the reluctant expression on his face told Caleb that his friend had come back to his senses, prompting him to pull him back up. However, all the rebels gasped in surprise as they saw the Guardians, Jackie, Uncle, and Alchemy suddenly arrive in the arena. Everybody, the signing ceremony is a trap. Will exclaimed. Hugun eggs were switched with Larvic eggs. You would have been eaten by the hatchlings. Jackie also exclaimed as Uncle presented the shells of one of the Larvic eggs as proof. Realizing he had been tricked and would have led his friends to their deaths, Aldarn couldn't help but hang his head down in shame. She lied to us. No, she didn't, Cornelia quickly said. Elyon probably didn't even know. This was all Phobos and Tarakudo's fault. Despite that, Aldarn still felt shame as he looked toward his leader and friend. Caleb, I'm sorry. Don't worry about it, Caleb assured as he put an assuring hand on his brother-in-arm's shoulder. So, what's our next step? He looked toward the Guardians and Chan clan. Tarakudo was there. Uncle said. He will likely tell Phobos that we have evaded death. And they may end up lying to Elyon, saying that we backed out of the treaty signing. Jade added. Which means, the bad guys will probably crack down on the rebellion even harder. Will also said. For the moment, I believe it may be best for the rebellion to lay low in the Infinite City. At least until we can come up with a plan. Jackie said. Yeah, alright. Caleb understood. But there are still Oni masks out there on Earth, right? Yep, only 2 left. Will confirmed. Well then, I at least want in when you find them. Caleb stated. Phobos, Castle. Elyon had been sitting at the ceremony alongside her brother, with the Dark Kai enforcers, Cedric, and Daolon Wong present as well. But they had been there for over an hour, and it was rather obvious to Elyon what had happened. They're not coming, are they? She asked dejectedly. I was afraid of this. Wong said. They simply cannot be trusted. I thought they wanted peace, Elyon said, not bothering to hide her frustration. As did I. Phobos said in a similar tone. Ah, don't look so sad, kiddo. You were just trying to be nice. Ratso tried to console Elyon. Princess, perhaps it may be best you do not leave the castle for the time being. Cedric told her. Your coronation approaches, so it is possible the rebellion may attack the castle before that happens to seize control of your power. Let them come, Elyon stated, her eyes narrowing dangerously. Ah, you okay, little E? Finn asked as he and his friends didn't like the tone in Elyon's voice. You're sounding kinda ominous. Chow added. My powers are growing, and I have much better control over them now. Elyon said as she opened her palm to generate a small but powerful white flame. If they want to come to my home looking for a fight, I'll give them one they won't forget. Phobos couldn't help but look concerned at his sister's more aggressive mood, while Wong and Cedric shared knowing grins with each other. After returning Elyon to her room, Phobos sat alone in his throne room with a tired sigh as he rubbed his hand down his face. Maybe he would have to abide by his original plan of taking Elyon's power and returning her to Earth after erasing her memories. It was his original plan, but now it didn't sound as appealing as before. Someone's looking rather tired, a familiar voice commented as the Oni King emerged from the stained glass window next to him. What do you want, Tarakudo? Phobos asked, not in the mood for game. To tell you that you have been betrayed. Tarakudo revealed, catching Phobos' attention. You arranged for the ceremony to take place here at the castle, but the rebels believed it would take place at the Hugun nesting grounds, where Hugun eggs were switched with larvic eggs. The rebels would have been eaten alive. Phobos was surprised by this, but he was also more surprised by Tarakudo's wording. Would have been. Mr. Chan and the Guardians went to scout it, which triggered the trap early. Tarakudo answered. But they were able to escape, sadly. Phobos didn't bother to hide his growl. So, there is indeed a traitor in my midst. 2 traitors, actually. Daolon Wong and Cedric. Tarakudo reveled. What? Phobos exclaimed, standing up from his throne. They're working together, conspiring against you to take Elyon's power for themselves. Tarakudo explained. I heard them myself. Though it's also likely they'll try to backstab each other so they don't have to share. The Dark Prince roared as he sent a wave of magic to shatter many of the windows in his throne room. I shall cast them into the abyss of shadows for these transgressions. He was more than ready to storm out of the chamber and perform the act himself, but Tarakudo blocked his way. As entertaining as that would be, they may have more value to us alive. Oh. For what reason would I keep 2 traitors alive and in my ranks, when I can simply execute and be done with them? Phobos exclaimed. Because there are 2 more masks yet to be found. Tarakudo replied. 2 masks, 2 traitors. And said traitors think that the power of these masks will grant them control over the remaining Shotokan tribes. But you and I both know the truth. their bodies will act as mere vessels to be possessed and taken over by the spirits of my Oni generals. While executing Cedric and Wong would be an effective way to be done with them, we can also use their power to our advantage, by transforming them into more obedient servants. Trust me, my generals are nothing short of loyal, they won't betray me, nor you. This calmed Phobos slightly, but not entirely. Normally, I would agree with your plan. But there is one issue you seem to overlook. The very real possibility of Chan and the Guardians taking the masks. They've already retrieved most of them, how can we be certain it won't happen for those remaining? Oh, that actually works out better for us. Tarakudo said, causing Phobos to look in confusion. What are you talking about? In response, Tarakudo leaned in closely to whisper something only Phobos could hear. Once he heard it, the Dark Prince's eyes widened so much, they were almost circular, he honestly couldn't believe it. So, what do you think? Tarakudo asked. Rather devious, don't you think? Whether we get the remaining 2 masks, or our enemies do, it doesn't matter. Phobos really did see the brilliance in this plan. It was so simple, and yet so grand. They or us, either way, we win. Tarakudo smirked. Phobos then narrowed his eyes at the Oni King. You win. Those are your generals, the Shotokan are your forces, not mine. I already have my right and left hands turning against me, how can I trust you won't do the same? You're right to sound skeptical. Tarakudo began. But think about it for a minute. Cedric and Wong conspire against you because they want your sister's power. But I don't. Little Elion's power is rather impressive, but my full power honestly eclipses hers. Both figuratively, and literally. Once all of Meridian is engulfed in eternal darkness, all other forms of magic fade into nothingness, even magic as significant as hers will fade away, unless you were to take it, as you originally planned. Stand with me, Phobos, and your newfound power will remain unchanged. That is why my generals are loyal. I don't rule them through fear, but rather a mutual form of respect that you are worthy of. Everything you've done, no matter how cruel, has not been out of the sake of cruelty itself, but out of necessity. You don't discard or throw away unless you feel you have to, taking advantage of what you can, even something that should have given your enemies an advantage and turning it to your favor. You have so much potential in you, Phobos, and I'd rather not see it wasted. Once it is all done, my veil of darkness engulfed all of Meridian, and you wield the power of your sister, nothing will stand in our way. The alliance of King Tarakudo and King Phobos. So, what do you say? Doesn't sound too bad, does it? Phobos had let all those words sink in. The entire time he knew Tarakudo, he knew he was right. The Oni King treated him with respect as any partner would, and he was right. Ruling through fear only causes resistance, but having your subordinates respect you does not. It may indeed be cruel, but the combined power of himself once he has Elion's, as well as that of Tarakudo's by his side, there wouldn't be a force in the universe that could stand against them. No, it doesn't sound bad at all. Phobos chuckled as Tarakudo's evil smile only grew. The next day, Earth, Sheffield Institute. Jackie, Toru, Uncle, and Yan Lin helped the girls set up the sweets for the bake sale. Needless to say, the girls were more than a little impressed. I have to admit, this is rather impressive. Jackie commented. Wow, Grandma, you and Toru really went all out with this stuff. Hey, Lin said as she and the others saw all the different kinds of desserts. In addition to all the cookies and stuff the girls had previously baked, there was also the vast different kinds of Japanese and Chinese desserts as well. Yeah, thought we'd mix some things up a bit. Yan Lin commented as Will took a bite of some mochi. Oh my god, Toru, you are a cooking master. Will smiled toward the sumo, who blushed with a humble smile. Oh, it's nothing special, I'm just glad I could help. Toru replied. Blanc even helped too. Cornelia was about to say something. And yes, we made sure he didn't put anything inedible in this. Good. Cornelia nodded. So where is the walking garbage disposal anyway? Jade asked. Helping himself to leftovers. Yan Lin gestured to a tent where Irma, Terani, and Alchemy looked inside to see Blanc with a full stomach, laying on top of pile of boxes with chocolate over his mouth, the pasling giving a satisfied burp. Oh, Mrs. Knickerbocker. Cornelia noticed the principal approaching to inspect the assortment of desserts herself. Oh, look at this spread, I'm so impressed. She tasted some dragon beard candy. Marvelous. You girls put a lot of work into this. Well, it wasn't just us, we had some help too. Jade said, referring to Toru and Yan Lin, the later smiling proudly while the former continued to blush. And it's the end of part 17 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.